It is our Committee of the Whole meeting where we have presentations, which tonight brings a lot of you here. So we're glad and we're eager to hear and to ask questions and for, just these celebrations that all of you bring to information that you share with us. Assistant Superintendent and Bonds and I have always said that this is really the meetings you want to be at. And I apologize, I'm late. I see Mr. Tuscan out there. We are celebrating the 8th grade orientation, and so it's important for us to dress it up a bit. So the speech and debate teams there are filling that up. So welcome, and we'll begin with Assistant Superintendent Bonds kind of sharing our first presentation. No votes are taken tonight, simply information. And there's roll call.
Member Derek Eater is excused. Member Kirby?
Here.
Member Loeffler Kemp is excused. Member Lofall?
Here.
Member Oswald is excused. I am here. Member Sandholm?
Present.
Superintendent Magus?
Here.
Assistant Superintendent Bonds?
Present.
And then Deputy Clerk Zunich is probably excused. And as is Teresa Severance and Board Secretary Paquette. So we good to go.
Okay, and just for our community too is, just like all of us, we have busy lives. So we have a school board member that's in Spain with her family. We have a school board member who is just getting over some medical complications. And we have a school board member who is at that 8th grade orientation because it's an important event for her 8th grade son. So here we are. The cool thing is that we record this. And I don't know if you've ever watched this, but there is nothing I love more than digesting the school board meeting that we videotape and the Committee of the Whole meeting and our policy committee meetings and our HR finance. So it's all right there on YouTube. And if you raise your hand and you say you watch it, I've got some M&Ms for you, and we'll make sure we get those on there. But we do watch them. I watch them again. It's amazing how much I get the second time watching. Because tonight now I'm all taking notes and I'm all worried about I'm late and that there's a lot on the menu. So I always go back and watch, as so do my colleagues. So again, welcome.
Thank you, Chair Loeffler, and welcome everyone. And I do want to say welcome to the community. For those of you who do tune in, this is truly, as you said, Chair Loeffler, the most exciting board meeting to me because, especially tonight, it's all things teaching and learning. And so I really appreciate the opportunity. I want to first say thank you to all of our leaders in the audience here. We have our principals and other district leaders, and they will have the opportunity to introduce themselves as well as share a little insight about their things, the wonderful things that are happening in their building. And so I won't belabor that. So I'm going to turn the presentation quickly over to Dr. Lake, who will begin the presentation related to, and I do have a modification.
Okay.
I forgot to say that because right here. Related to our school improvement plans and our CIT process. And she's going to provide an update on our CIT update. But as you see in the agenda, we're going to do a quick change. At first, it was going to be a presentation being given by the Achievement Integration by our coordinator, Nathan Smith, right there. But he has been agreeable to adjust and allow this presentation to go first. And so I want to thank him for making that adjustment. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Lake, who's going to provide us, again, an update related to our CIT process. Dr. Lake.
Thank you. Good evening. It's nice to see you all. Tonight I'm here to give an update on our initiative, our continuous improvement teams. It was identified as one of our key priorities in our district to ensure that we have leadership teams at each of our schools that were up and running and able to do the improvement work. I'm just going to start out with a quick quote. A lot of my presentations have this in the beginning, just as a reminder that every system is perfectly designed to get the results that it gets. And really, for me, I see that as motivation, really to address our achievement with our students at the systemic level. And continuous improvement teams is a great way to do that, really systematizing how we do improvement in our schools. So just a quick organization of our presentation. I'm going to give a little bit of background and context, just some grounding, the history of CITs in our schools. These CITs are not new, but I'll talk about what that history is and what makes them different now. An overview of continuous improvement teams, the who, the what, the why, the how, and then a bit of a status update on our school improvement plans. So you got in advance our school improvement plans from each of our buildings. It's just a summary of the themes of each of our plans. And then you'll have a chance to meet our principals, and they're gonna say a few words about their schools and what they've been working on that they're proud of. So we will get started. So where we've been, like I said, continuous improvement teams, it's not a new thing. Prior to 2021, we did school improvement teams. Back in spring of 2016, our assistant superintendent at the time shared a vision with principals and gathered some feedback. And at that time, we sprung into action with some training. So in the summer of 2016, we provided all schools with predictable funding and then began our training in the fall. We continued our training through approximately fall 2018. And then at about the mid-year, some of you were here for that, we had some very significant mid-year budget cuts. And as a result of those cuts, the initiative was eliminated, or the funding to support the initiative was eliminated, I guess would be more accurate. You know, schools did their best to continue the work at their schools, and they did. But our plan for rolling out the initiative, supporting it with professional development, et cetera, that was eliminated as a part of those cuts. So in 21-22, the district recommitted to the idea of continuous improvement teams, and we decided that we really needed to reboot them. We needed to go back to where we were, we needed to review some things, and we needed to almost treat it as though it was a new initiative. So a lot of the work that we did in 21-22 was developing the infrastructure for supporting them. We updated the processes and procedures. I was identified as the person that would lead this initiative in our district. I knew that we would need to work very closely with the Regional Centers of Excellence. They provide a lot of support to our schools that have been identified under our state's accountability system, because we didn't want to have two tiers of expectations. We didn't want to have the schools who had been identified for support having different procedures, different expectations than those across our district. We thought, you know, they really are doing best practices, and we all should be doing those best practices together so that we could really address things as a system. So we renewed our partnerships with the Regional Centers of Excellence, and as I said, we updated our processes and procedures. A big focus of that was to align them to the procedures that were that are required by MDE and also by the regional centers. And as some of that background work, we developed some tools and resources to support the initiative. We had a continuous improvement team handbook at one time. We needed to go through that and ensure that the processes were updated to match the new processes that were expected from the Regional Centers of Excellence, for example. We talked with principals and provided updates on what the proposed roadmap would be for the initiative. We did get some start on that, and then in December, we paused the plan, the outward plan with CITs, because COVID was starting to ramp up again. We had staffing shortages, and frankly, we had initiative overload. We were expecting a lot of change from our schools and our teachers. So really, at that time, recommitted to that background work, doing the work in the background, preparing for a more outward launch in the following year. We did have our schools do a leadership team rubric where they grade themselves on a variety of different factors, and that helped them identify where their strengths were, where they had some areas of development, and then where they wanted to focus in the coming years. We also, knew that we would need to have some leadership teaming structures that would align our work all the way from our classrooms, from the board to the classrooms. So CITs on their own wouldn't be able to do that. We wanted to ensure that they were well connected with PLCs and also our district teaming structures, so that, again, we would have that alignment and that we would be addressing things systemically. So fast forward to 22-23, really the focus this year has been to provide the training and support on those updated processes and procedures that we worked on in 21-22. So we started out in the summer, we brought in teams and provided training on those updated processes. We've been monitoring the use of those processes, and then it's been an ongoing topic at our meetings. So we meet monthly as a principal group or as an administrative group. It's a standing item on our agenda as we continue to move forward the processes, the next steps of the process each month. We're also going to be gathering and have, as we've been going, feedback on the training and the processes and the support that's available, so that we can make some enhancements and improvements next year. And we do continue to collaborate very regularly with our regional centers of excellence staff. And for 23 and beyond, like I said, we really are going to be collecting that feedback and, figuring out how we can use that feedback to improve those processes. We know that seeing system-wide visible results for students takes time, but we're feeling good about if we are really focused, we're pointing our arrows in the same direction, we're using some best practices, that we will in fact see those results. If you want more of a detailed look at what the roadmap is for the implementation of the initiative, I have an action card that I update regularly on. You can kind of see it stepped out, the stages of the initiative stepped out, and then updates of where we are with each of those stages. So this is a fun part. CITs, the what, the who. The what, it really is just a team, a leadership team at every school that is tasked with improving student achievement. The membership, the Every Student Succeeds Act is really one of the drivers of this school improvement work across our state and across our district. They want us to have our partnerships with our stakeholders. They want our plans to be locally developed and implemented with the intent of improving those student outcomes. The why, our data suggests we do have an urgent need, to improve achievement for our students. And, it was just exacerbated by the pandemic. And we know that pockets of excellence, that's not the answer, that we really need to be moving together as a system to address the complex needs that we're facing in our district. So the how is really the three-step process. There's a visual there. The first step that our teams have taken, they conducted a comprehensive needs assessment. And what that includes is a review of the data with the purpose of identifying a root cause of why their data looks the way it looks. Once they've done that, then they're able to select strategies that will specifically address that root cause that would emerge from the data review. Goals are set after that. A communication plan is developed with stakeholders, and then a plan for implementing that strategy. Within that plan, we also have a way to monitor the progress of that implementation of the plan, to ensure that what we have there we're actually doing. So when we look at where we are now, all of our schools have conducted a comprehensive needs assessment. They've identified their root causes. They've identified evidence-based strategies that will address the root cause, and they've developed a plan for implementation. So now our schools are in the and are in the process of implementing their strategies, not to say they haven't been implementing strategies up until now, they have, but implementing strategies in a very planful way, and then identifying how they're going to monitor those strategies throughout the year. One of the things that I also didn't mention is the comprehensive needs assessment is something that's done once every 3 years. So you do a really deep dive. Every year you include new data just to ensure that you're still on the right track. But the school improvement plans are meant to be longer term, not just a 1-year plan, knowing that it takes time to implement and it takes time to get those results. So the plans are on a 3-year cycle that aligns with our school district and schools accountability with our state, that North Star accountability system. But like I said, every year the plans are reviewed, they're tweaked as needed, but it is a longer term plan more than just an annual plan. So the school improvement plan is really the thing that it's all about. It's a written plan to achieve the vision of the school. It answers the question, how are we going to get where we want to be? So it really gets clear in articulating that. And its primary purpose is to identify research-based strategies, practices or programs that will address that root cause. And schools are reviewing it within the context of what are the strategies that realistically in our schools we can implement with fidelity that will address the root cause and give us the greatest likelihood of success. So that's another consideration too, is there are a lot of evidence-based strategies out there, but if we don't have the resources or capacity to do them and do them well, then we have to be looking at other strategies that we feel more confident that we're going to be able to implement. What makes our school improvement plans different now is we do have increased collaboration with the regional centers of excellence. I feel very fortunate to be working with Terry Huggle, our internal district team. You know, we have developed a very meaningful partnership where I feel like we have a good, healthy two-way collaboration. We have greater standardization in our processes. So since we're all doing this together as a district, we're learning things together at the same time, we have greater standardization in the practices and also in the expectations. We have some enhanced transparency. Our schools' plans are posted on the websites, or if not, they will be shortly. We just transitioned to a new website, so that's that could be a delay in some of our sites. And then we have the capacity to provide some ongoing guidance, support, and oversight of those processes. We also have a wider range of representatives on our teams. You know, we could strengthen that even further, but we did have funds available for teams to include more members on their teams so that they were more representative. We have some improved consistency and coordination of our strategies across our district. So as an example of that, MTSS, social emotional behavioral, you've heard us come and talk about that in previous meetings. All of our schools have MTSS coordinators focused on that social emotional behavioral. With having someone in charge in each of our buildings, we've been able to implement some things consistently across all of our schools through their teaming and through that CAT structure. We have sharper focus. Previous plans had lots and lots of strategies listed, which made it really difficult to implement well. And our schools have been encouraged to include no more than 3 strategies. So when you look at that school improvement plans at a glance, that document, you'll notice that all of our schools have 2. One focused on academics, one focused on social emotional behavioral type things. Some do have 3, but not all of them. 3 is optional. And then there's a heavier emphasis on monitoring the fidelity of the strategy. So just identifying the strategy isn't enough, but implementing the strategy and implementing well is really the only way that we're going to see better student outcomes. And then there's a deeper commitment and follow-through to the strategies that are selected, with the plans being more than just annual plans that we implement and then do a new one each year. They're written on a 3-year cycle and only reviewed. So there is greater commitment and follow-through with those strategies, understanding that it does take time to get results. And we're not going to go over the district school improvement plans at a glance. You have that in advance. The public has that as a part of the board packet. But what you'll see in that document is it's divided into 3 strategy areas, with each of our schools identifying what their primary focus is in each area, and then what the goal is that they're trying to impact, the student outcome that they're trying to achieve by doing that strategy. So that concludes the overview part. We are now to the fun part. The principals are going to introduce themselves, tell you where they work. They're going to talk about, a thing or two that they're proud of, and then if there's anything else that would be helpful for you to know about their school or themselves or their team. And then when they're finished doing that, then we can open it up to questions. Sound good? Okay. I will start over here. Should we just pass the mic? All right, okay.
Good, thank you.
Perfect, thank you. So I'm Jessica, I'm the principal at Stowe Elementary, and I'm tasked with going first, so let's see how I do on our things here. So lots of acronyms there, but thank you, really good information, and hopefully I can help clarify a couple of things on those. So I did share with teachers that I got to brag about them today, so I'm excited to get to do that. So our CIT team is basically our problem-solving team, and I can't do my job without them. They help me make decisions in the building, and it's so important and crucial to get that input. I did want to speak to adding additional members this year to that team, and that's been really powerful in our building. For example, having a special education staff member on that team, having a specialist teacher representing on that team, so getting all of those different perspectives has been something that I'm actually pretty proud of as well. So our building does have 3 goals on our school improvement plan. 2 of them are related to academics, they're related to reading and math. And one of the things I wanted to share as far as what I'm proud of for those is we have our building interventionists. We have set up kind of a coaching program, so they are not only doing interventions in their groups, but they're going and working with classroom teachers to not have those interventions be like a mystery that they're working on, right? So like, what is it that they're doing? What are some of those strategies that can also happen in the classroom as well? So that's one thing we're really excited about there. Another one of our goals on our school improvement plan is related to chronic absenteeism, because as we know, we need students in school to get these goals that we're talking about. So I have a number to share with you from last year that is hard to hear, but it speaks to COVID, and our chronic absenteeism at our building last year was 45%. And I will share with you that so far this year at least, we are currently at 10%. So that is a significant improvement, and we're very proud of that. I can also speak to just our family engagement, and I'm excited about these numbers as well. Our family attendance rate for our open house this year was 77%. We were pretty excited about that, but wait for it. Our fall conferences were 81%, and our spring ones were 95%. So just as far as getting families engaged to the building, I think it speaks to our students that absenteeism rate as well. And just to share things that we're excited that we're doing, I have a list for you. Just some fun things, again, just to get families really involved and into the building. We walked to school day, we did a Halloween parade, we actually have the school forest out at Stowe, so we did a family hike. We also did a winter, not like a camping event, but outdoor event with some bonfires and things just to get families involved. So I do feel like it's really translating into those numbers that I shared with you, and we're pretty excited about what we're doing at Stowe. So thank you.
Hi, I'm Eve Hessler. I'm the principal at Lowell Elementary. I feel extremely proud of our CIT and all the work we've done, and I'm always excited to talk about it and get feedback from our RCE coach, and also with my colleagues that we've been talking about this monthly, as Tanya shared. One of the things I'm most proud of as a CIT is we are reviewing research right now as a team, so that shared learning, we're all anchoring ourselves in what the research says and then building or kind of finalizing an explicit instruction practice profile for literacy. And our staff learning on that starts in April, so we're excited to give our staff some PD and share the things that we found in research. And then we hope to have some baseline data by the end of the year to really target our fall PD. Additionally, we are doing our shared CIT learning is also consisting of designing an evidence-based program to support our K-2 students and some of their behaviors. We want to keep them in class so they can learn better. And I feel really proud of this goal that my team came up with because it's really working to their strengths and their backgrounds so we can really share a lot of the work and really bring in that expertise that they have from different sites and just years and years and years in education. And then, so I guess I'm just excited to see where we go in 3 different languages and a multitude of cultures that we have going on at Lowell. So thank you.
It's up to you.
I don't know if there's a back row, but I always marshal those in the cheap seats because I'm in the back row up here. But my name is Tom Crockett. I'm the principal at Homecroft, and I'm really proud of our CAT at Homecroft. We've got 2 areas or 2 foci strategies for this current year. One involves MTSS and further implementation or development of PBIS strategies. Our students and our staff work really hard at being respectful, responsible, and safe. I get teased about that because I say that every day over the intercom and the announcements, but it truly is embedding into the culture what it means to be respectful, responsible, and safe. And some of that, in terms of PBIS and next steps, I don't have enough time to go into all of that, but we needed about 80% of the staff to implement PBIS formally within our school, and we have over 95% of our staff that said, yeah, we're ready, we're on board. And that's just telling of Homecroft. It truly is another home for me and for our staff. We love our kids. And the other area of that, in terms of loving on them and creating a buzz, just relates back to that PBS process with Buzz Bucks. We've continued that through, and we're the Hornets, by the way, so you can see there's a play there on not a bee, a hornet. Those things are celebrated and they show, and we get recognition to every single student throughout the entire year from September until May. But we wanted to further that with some rewards because not only is it nice to have your name once recognized, we want to make sure that we're recognizing the behaviors and choices of all our kids in an effort to reduce those behavior referrals. And through the MTSS process and with our CITs, we've continued to implement and further support kids through social and emotional needs. And thank you for district support in that because Homecroft has been very, very light in terms of social and emotional support. A lot of you in this room have been principals in the Homecroft over the past generations and years. We don't have a counselor there. And there's no other social, emotional, behavioral support at Homecroft prior to the past couple of years other than the principal, myself, and or our staff. And having an additional support through the implementation of MTSS and PBIS and all the other acronyms that Ms. Cook mentioned, it truly has helped provide a balanced structure for our kids and help better meet their needs. So that is one thing I'm extremely proud of. The other thing is we're looking at making sure the achievement gap is closing, and we identified through our CNA process 2 specific areas related to specific student subgroups on the MCA test. And I don't have test data to share with you right now, but I'm confident through the re-examination of literacy practices based on standards, benchmarks, and ensuring that the rigor of those are met and implemented in our classrooms, that we're going to see that achievement gap close. So there's a lot going on at Homecroft. I'm giving you just a bite of the overall pie tonight. But again, our CIT team and the Homecroft staff is working really hard to ensure that, and I will toot our horn on this one, we're one of the few schools in the district who has made continuous gains over the past 5 years, and we did not regress. And I'm extremely proud of our staff for that. So if you see someone from Homecroft, whether they're a teacher or if they're on our CIT team, give them some kudos because our achievement has continued despite the struggles of the pandemic over the past 5 years. Thank you. Well, 2 years, but the past 5 years of data review.
Good evening. My name is Jim Erickson. I'm the principal at Laura MacArthur Elementary, home of the Eagles. And one of the things that I continue to be most proud of about Laura MacArthur and our CIT, our process, is just the continued collaborative process that we have working through our CIT. recognizing that this is a process, and it's a significant process for some. It's a significant change, and when we look at examining our practices, positively or negatively, how that's impacting others, that change can be significantly hard. If you think of yourself as being on a trapeze and you're holding on to one rail and you're hoping to land on the other rail, there's a lot that happens in between. And the in-between stages is, I think, where we as a staff are really coming together to understand what are those areas that we're needing to improve on. We are a school that has been identified by the state needing improvement both in academic performance and in our attendance. We have 3 goals because of that. We have a reading goal, we have a PBIS goal for our school climate, and we also have an attendance goal. And with that, our premise of our school improvement plan was really about addressing the 4 questions that you've heard these before. The DeForest 4 questions, and one of the first questions is, what do we want our students to learn? And so one of the processes that we took advantage of was doing a standards audit. And that standards audit is really important because when you look at our curriculum, you look at how we deliver information, there's a lot there. There's a lot that we make assumptions that we know or we don't know. And so we took it upon ourselves to do the standards audit and recognizing that that's a significant need, not only knowing where we are right now, but looking at that grade level ahead, looking at that grade level behind, understanding where those gaps are. And so with that, we've been able to identify some needs that we have some next steps for our team. Again, the work that we do, as hard and difficult as it can be, it's a collaborative approach and knowing that you're working with a team that has significant grit. And that's what I appreciate about our staff. So again, you've got our plans, you can take a look at that, but certainly welcome any questions that you have in the future. Come by and visit.
Hi, I'm Anna Cockett. I am the principal at Lester Park. Like everyone else, I have a fabulous CIT. I've been especially thankful for them this year as a new to this building and role principal. My CIT is very veteran and comes with a wealth of knowledge about what's been going on in the building and in the district in years past. And I really lean on them for a lot of things this year. I think we've got 2 goals in our SIP plan. If you take a peek at them, something that I'm incredibly proud of as it relates to both of those goals is that they really focus on meeting the needs of the whole child. We've noticed at Lester Park and really probably everywhere over the last few years that our kids are really showing us that they have needs that we weren't always meeting all day, every day. And so our team has put a lot of time and effort into planning to better meet those needs over time. So like a lot of other buildings, one of those goals is about PBIS, for positive behavior interventions and support. And my CIT actually met today, so they were able to help me decide what we were going to highlight. And they wanted to talk about a couple of things as they relate to PBIS. We've made some really good steps and progress toward this already. Something really cool that happened at Lester Park this year is that we are now the newly branded Lester Park Labradors. We've been doing a lot with student voice and listening to kids and families and what they want and need. And as we started this process of building a system of PBIS, it's really important that we have a proud sense of who we are and what's our community and our mascot. And Lester Park for a long time has been kind of the baby version of the Greyhound mascot, and kids didn't love that. So our 5th graders really led this process. They came up with characteristics of a Lester Park student. They're curious, they're creative, they're hardworking, and then brainstormed in their classrooms what some possible mascots might be. And then they narrowed it down, and eventually they narrowed it down to 4 and put together this really cool video about how all of those mascots demonstrated those characteristics of the student. And everybody in the building got to watch the video, and everybody got to vote. And we are now officially the Lester Park Labradors. So in keeping with the dog tradition, I guess, on our end of town, which was really exciting for the kids. They have ownership, and that means something to them. So now after we got that piece of the process over with, we started digging into school-wide common expectations and ways to really recognize kids for the positive things that they're doing. We heard a lot from kids and families that they didn't feel like there was a lot of that going on. So we have a long way to go still, but we've made some huge strides this year, and the team is really motivated in what they're doing. And they also wanted me to make sure I shared with you tonight that they're very proud of the community outreach type projects that we do at Lester Park. We've got the Giving Tree, which is a huge project, been going on for like 20 years now. Every Christmas time, we're about to start their big food drive. We're really excited this week to bring back Grandparents / Special Friends Day on Thursday for the first time since before COVID. So getting back to a lot of those fun, engaging events for family members and the community. My team does a great job of that. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Jacob Hinsla. I am the principal for the treatment sites in Duluth. That would be Merritt, Chester, Rockridge, Amberwing, Bethany, and Arrowhead Academies. A little bit different because my CIT consists of multiple buildings. So my CIT actually consists of members from 4 out of the 6 sites. Had to think for a second, it's getting late. So there's a member from each team, some of them have 2, as well as staff from those treatment centers. So Northwoods has members on the CIT so that we can work in collaboration with the treatment sites as well as the school. When we look at the treatment sites and CIT, we have 3 goals that we're working on. The biggest one that we work on is the social, emotional, and behavioral aspect, because when we can get that in control, the students start to become ready to learn. So one of the biggest things is focusing on those, when I look at the MTSS model, the treatment sites are level 3, a tier 3 MTSS within the district, but within each building, I still have 3 levels that I work within that MTSS model, coming through developing those relationships with the students, the title, going on the line for the MTSS model. Completely forgot where I'm going, but getting back on track, some of the stuff that I'm really proud of with that is the growth that we have with the students. On average, most of the sites were usually about 140 to 150 days, calendar days that the kids are with us. But we're looking at students making more than half a year's growth in those facilities at some really good numbers. Merritt, just looking at it, so far this year, the kids that have come and gone that have been there, I think Merritt is 143 days on average. More than 83% of the kids are making growth in math. 62% of it is greater than half a year's growth in that amount of time. So looking at some really good numbers, so hopefully we can continue that.
Hi, good evening. I'm Brenda Sparks, Director of Elementary Education, and I'm going to give the update for Lakewood. Dr. Sheldon couldn't be here tonight due to a conflict, so I get the honor. What he wanted you to know is that the CIT at Lakewood monitors plans and initiatives that need to be implemented at the site, and he specifically cited second step incorporation of WIN and PLCs as some focuses that they are monitoring at this time. They also monitor and review data, which we know we do often. And he noted he sees the CIT as the principal's sounding board. And as a quote, he said, "I like to call the CIT the School Board of Lakewood Elementary School." So that's a quote. His proud moment, a couple of them that he cited, one surrounds one of the goals of his SIP this year, which was integration of a WIN block into the elementary schedule for each of his grades. It's really difficult at Lakewood because they have multiple splits. And so how do you address the needs of the splits with when? And so that's been hard for them. This year they really focused on that. Teachers wanted to do it. They had a lot of flexibility that they showed, and so Dr. Sheldon was very proud of how the teachers embraced it and then made it happen in his school this year. So that's a good thing. He's also wanted to say that he's very proud of the enrollment up there. The enrollment has increased by, I did the math, by about 28 kids, which is a full classroom up there this year. So that's great news. Yeah, and another thing that they're focusing on, I think a few other people have mentioned this, but chronically absent. They do have kids up there who struggle with coming to school, and so that's another focus of their CIT.
Okay, I have to go quick. So I'm Kathy. I've been part of the school district for 33 years. That's a long time. 14 years at Congdon, 19 years at the Nettleton Magnet School. And I've been really, really fortunate to see a lot of change in the district. One of the things I gave you is a copy of our MTSS framework. And I know that I have to talk fast, Elena. But what I would like for you to take a look at, because when I asked our CIT what they wanted me to share, is to please share the framework. So a couple years ago, as Tanya was talking about, this is what it looked like. You'll remember it was response to intervention. If you would be so kind as to open your piece of paper, you can see for yourself all the great things that our CIT has been doing over the last few years. We really focus primarily on, well, we have the 3 goals this year. We are really looking at attendance. And one of the things that's really important is, as we drill down, and Tanya talked about what we're doing to really address attendance, is we have to figure out what are the barriers and why aren't the kids coming to school, right? So we meet every other week and we talk about that, and we really move the needle with getting our kids to school. One of the things that I really am super, super proud of, and that is our staff is present, and our students are present. That means you have to have the courage to show up every single day. The last couple of years have been really, really hard, everywhere. But coming to school every day is a celebration. And I have to say, that is including the adult community. Whether it's the cafeteria monitors, or the bus drivers, teachers, everyone. I call them our circle of support. And I'm just really, really proud of how we're stepping up and stepping out to help all kids. So, on behalf of Concord Park, thanks for everything you do. Selena, did I go fast enough for you? Yes. They give me a hard time because I talk too much, but I am Elder Cush-Marshall, so thank you.
There will be.
I know.
Good evening. I'm Jennifer Bowley, and I'm the principal at Piedmont Elementary School. And, you know, I am so proud of the work that we do every day in my building. My CIT team is incredibly committed, like all of our teams. And we tackle a lot of big things. As an identified school, we also have 3 goals, 2 of which are academic in nature, and one is a little bit more behavioral focused. And in thinking about, you know, how we wanted to address those big needs, especially looking at not just the post-pandemic academic gaps, but also the social emotional needs, we really leaned into our MTSS team. And as part of that, we did kind of a reboot of that group and used the guidelines as set by the MTSS guidebook as our kind of framework, and did some training over the summer. Came back this fall with 3 brand new interventionists. And I'm really proud of the work that they're doing to meet the needs of our kids. And that's a systems piece, right? So under their support and guidance, being able to ensure that all of our kids are getting that additional help and intervention in math and reading and behaviors. And they've done a really phenomenal job, and we're seeing significant gains. Additionally, I also want to give a shout out because we are also partnering with University of Minnesota Duluth. And as a partner institution, they have been coming to our CIT meetings and working with us. And it's been an incredible opportunity and one that I am so grateful for. So currently we're working with the with Education Department lead, Dr. Eric Torres, and several members from his department, and it's been just a phenomenal opportunity. We're looking now at getting additional staff and students to be able to come in and support our students. So it's a very symbiotic relationship in the sense that we're going to be guiding emerging teachers in the work that they're doing, and our students are going to benefit from that relationship as well. So lots to be proud of, and I'm looking forward to great results ahead. Thank you so much.
Good evening, I'm Brian Kuzmerchik. I'm the principal at Lincoln Park Middle School. I have a lot that I'm proud of about our school. Our CIT has been working on our focus areas for at least the last 2 school years. We identified literacy and literacy strategies last year and continue to do that work. We took an opportunity this year of going through the SIP planning and the comprehensive needs assessment to ensure that we have identified the strategies that fit, willing to make adjustments, but we have landed on PBIS and to address attendance and behavior. And since we are only 1 year into our building-wide literacy strategies, we have chosen to continue those as well. So I also asked my team what kinds of things we should highlight, so I have quite a few that I would like to share. I always start with Lincoln Park being a full-service community school, allowing us to provide supports to families and students, providing enrichment opportunities after school, but it also allows us to provide resources to families through our food pantry and through our community partners. We made an adjustment to our team structure, almost exactly 3 years ago, just before COVID broke, where we have a dean and a counselor in each grade. Add Check and Connect to that as well, because we also have a Check and Connect in each grade right now. We've always been focused on relationships with that structure. Having highly trained staff supporting students on a day-to-day has really made an impact. We have implemented our ROAR expectations with PBIS to fidelity, and we are in a great position to support throughout the district as buildings are getting ready with that. One aspect of PBIS is that we do teach expectations and how to be a middle schooler. We are on track to have fewer than 200 events that lead to suspension for the first time in over 10 years. We have also reduced our suspensions by nearly 60%. That's days of suspension by 60%. And we have had 5 citations this year, and 4 of them are drug-related. Our alternative to suspension program, PAWS, Positive Alternatives Within Schools, has worked with a total of 83 students this year. The program has allowed us to avoid suspension and reduce suspension days. 55% of our students who have attended our PAWS program have not returned, which tells me that it's working quite well. 3/4 of our students who have been through the program more than one time are also connected to our Check and Connect integration specialists, have case managers, or are part of our Northwoods Children's Services. So our students are supported. We continue to use restorative practices in a variety of ways. We use restorative practices to build community during win, repair harm, and allow student voice, especially during conflict. Our counselors and social workers excel at identifying the support the students need and working with families. I think that's the relationships that are so important with our dean and counselor in each grade, whether it's outside or our co-located services within the building. As the culture of our building has improved, we've also been able to focus our attention on literacy. We've been implementing building-wide literacy strategies starting in the 21-22 school year. We had to balance COVID-19, but we continued on that path. As part of this focus, we were very proud to accomplish our One Book, One Day. The event in itself was wonderful, but with the student voice and the selection that the students picked to read, led us to preparing our staff to have challenging conversations and lead challenging conversations. Students chose that book that was relevant to them. It felt great to honor that and support students to have those conversations in a safe environment. I think it's also important to note that it allowed student voice to be heard for students who are historically marginalized. So, lastly, I want to highlight one aspect of PBIS that we don't often get to talk about, and that's the celebrations. We celebrate Wildcats of the Week every week. We celebrated our students that earned a 4.0 today with our brainy bunch. We do that every quarter. Today we had 82 students. We had 82 students in our building that had a 4.0. Next week, we identified students who were at 3.0 to 3.9. First quarter it was 302. This quarter it's 257. And we'll have a fun activity for them next week. So, and we also have our Positive Perks lock-in in March 4th, March 24th, which is another way that we celebrate. And then lastly, we made an adjustment to our parent conferences and our family nights. We've noticed that we have different groups of parents who attend both, so we combined them just to see how it went, and it was phenomenal. We served over 300 people at our meal, and it was great. It went great. We're going to repeat it. So that's what's going on at Lincoln Park. That's what we're proud of, and we continue to do good things.
Good evening, Tom Tusky, principal at Denfeld High School. I think the theme that is beginning to emerge from hearing all of these things is that our district has a lot of alignment happening right now with MTSS, PBIS, SEL. I'm saying that only because Denfeld is one of the earliest adopters of PBIS in the district, one of the earlier adopters. We actually have an SEL curriculum in our high school right now. So we are on the front edge of this. It's nice that the rest of the district is also aligned with what's happening. I've been holding out hope for a long time that things like PBIS would become institutionalized across our district, because then they don't have to come back to me and say, well, why are we the only ones doing it? So, all that being said, you can hear that there's a lot of alignment in the Western schools, between Lincoln and Denfeld in particular, on some of these things, and we'll talk about our alternatives to suspension program as well. So, super encouraging time right now to be leading a school into public schools because of this work. And retrenching right now and continuous improvement, school improvement process has been fantastic. That being said, since Denfeld was previously identified, we have had the pleasure of working with Terry Huddle and the Regional Centers of Excellence for a number of years, which means the process that Tanya Lake took us through this year was very familiar to us, so I think it gave us a little bit of a head start. We're going to be launching a practice profile at Denfeld this spring around classroom systems. So actually looking at what does a classroom look and feel like this spring for our kids so that they have a more consistent feel from classroom to classroom. So it's been fantastic to get to know the school improvement process, to kind of have everyone coming along with this on this journey as well now. It's very encouraging. Our two goals are focused on attendance and raising our consistent attendance rate, and secondarily, increasing the perception of student safety in our building. You've heard reference that the last few years were exceedingly difficult. I would say that we felt that very acutely at Denfeld High School, and our school climate survey that we surveyed students on in the spring reflected that. Part of that work, the district committed some resources last year to Denfeld High School, so we started an alternatives to suspension program this year, also called PAUSE, which we borrowed from Lincoln Park, or STOLE might be the better term. But that has made a tremendous impact, and I will tell you that when you start doing some of these things, you are in a position never to go back. Denfeld's not going back. I will tell you that at the end of the first semester, we had a 66% reduction in days out of school. And that's after a semester, and I will tell you, because I know there are people affiliated with Denfeld in the room, we have a long way to go. We haven't implemented this program for a year. Lincoln Park is several years in front of us. But you can already see the reflection in their statistics where we are headed, because we are falling behind them now, because they're breaking trail for us. So a lot of great things happening. The other thing that's happening is the district is leading a lot of equity work with principals. That equity work with principals and district admin is focused around capturing student voice. Just organically, two things happen at Denfeld in addition to that this year. One, we followed East Lead. They have a group out here called Point of View, that gathers student feedback. We now have one at Denfeld called Golds, which is gathering our leaders, determining solutions. So we have a student group at Denfeld that very closely mimics our student population, which we can now go to for feedback and problem solving. That's been a great thing that we're really proud of, because it makes a big difference when you listen to the kids. Secondarily, Denfeld was offered an opportunity to participate in the Learner-Centered Network, which we did. So we had a program that's still underway at Denfeld called the Voices Framework, where we captured 10 students telling us their stories and their experience at Denfeld. We talked a lot about the desired daily experience. Well, we had 10 of our students tell us that. That produced, Captivate Media produced a 21-minute video we shared with our staff in February. It is very difficult to get direct feedback from your kids about what their experience is in your school. So that work is continued with our staff. We had a staff meeting this morning to talk about relationship building. It's vital work. All these things are just kind of coming together. The alignment I'm talking about at the front end of this is happening all over the district. And so we are really starting to move in a cohesive and really positive direction. So a lot of good things to come. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sue Lane. I'm principal at Irving East Middle School. And very much like Tom, I would say that the alignment that is happening across the district is going to show exponential growth for all of us as principals and our staff and our students. I believe that I came to this position this year for a good reason, and that was definitely to learn from the staff that was already there, and they had already led the way in such fabulous programming, the teams that are there. But yet at the same time with the CNA just rebooting, having the opportunity to learn a deep understanding of what they have been through, what their data shows, and what makes me super proud is they were open to new eyes, and it's not always easy to take that risk and to share their celebrations and to share some of the things they're hoping to do better on. We landed again with some alignment with PBIS and MTSS as our main focuses and strategies. We are working very hard on action steps to ensure that we have systems and supports that are in place that support the work that people are doing. Our staff really wants to focus on core as the building block of MTSS, and so that's where we're putting a great amount of energy. I'm just super proud to work there with a group of solid professionals, and I, like Tom, is looking forward to good things to come.
Long time no see. I'm Danette Sebo, I'm the principal here at East. It is one of our parent-teacher conference nights. You're gonna see people wandering. They don't look too lost tonight, that's a good thing. Believe it or not, spring sports start next week.
Yeah.
So we have a couple of captain's practices running and parent meet, there's people everywhere. I will kind of mimic a lot of what they're saying about alignment and strategies and I think that in the 7 years I've been here, we felt a little behind the times because we haven't had necessarily staff to support us in those efforts. And so what, I hate to say it, but what pandemic money has brought us is people behind the push. And so at East High School, that's 4 Check and Connect mentors who are assisting with that. It's one of the cleanest, best, most high fidelity implementations of any program I've ever experienced in a district. We have a full-time MTSS coordinator who has helped us stay focused on the data and tracking what we're supposed to track and monitoring if it's working, connecting with our teams. We have 5 counselors here at East. We will never go back. But that level of support has really helped our CIT with a lot of resources and support so that we're not kind of flying by the seat of our pants just trying to gather that data and implement those things ourselves. So those have been huge here at East in helping us move forward and trying to catch up on some of those initiatives. The other thing I would talk about is similar to what Tom said. Student voice is something that we have all been spending time working on professionally as leaders in the district and finding ways to elevate student voice, hear it, use it, follow up in many different ways and in as many safe spaces as we can, and working to hear from the quietest voices who are missed the most often has definitely been a goal area for our team here at East. Identifying who we need to hear from to really gauge, do you feel the difference in what we're trying to do? We are in I think our 6th year of having that POV student group, and this is the first year I would say we're fully rolling. COVID got in the way, building that leadership base got in the way, but now that we've been doing this for a few years, it's been just a fantastic experience. And so we meet with those student leaders. It's a big group here. There's about 50 kids that come and go out of POV. But there are student leaders from all of our biggest leadership and advocacy groups, from our special ed students, GSA, our mental health support groups, and then all of our student government groups. But our CIT has basically the student component there to kind of talk about how does this feel in the classroom, how does this feel from your point of view, what do you think of this strategy we're looking at, and what has your experience been in that? And so continuing to grow that has been a huge piece of the puzzle, and the more comfortable we get with that and the more often we do it, the more our students feel heard and valued, and that what we're doing here reflects their experience. So, thank you. I don't think you're gonna see me again for a while.
Everybody, Nathan Lockley, principal at the Area Learning Center and Academic Excellence Online. I'm going to completely start to pander our group here. The principals that have been speaking, it's an honor to work with this group of individuals. They work tirelessly, and I get to sit in so many meetings and listen to the passion that they have to improve their schools. And so I just wanted to publicly thank them. And then I also wanted to do some more pandering here. Brenda, to Jen, to Tanya, to Mr. Bonds, and to Mr. Magus. They get to hear us snarky principals in meetings because we're passionate, and I'm sure they leave meetings going, why do I work here? These guys are nuts. They're crazy, but we're passionate about improving our schools. And that can be really difficult work. And so I just want to thank the district administration for listening to our whining, our complaining, because at the end of the day, we want to do what's best for kids. At ALC and AEO, both schools were identified by the state. For ALC, it was on-time graduation rates, and you can imagine that that's a difficult task to take on, and our staff has really taken on that challenge full force by implementing mirrors groups, which look at behavior, attendance, and grades, and then come up with interventions to address those needs. On the AEO side of the house, math really was participation. There were students who opted out of taking the test, and so that hurt us because they get marked against us. And so we have the difficult task of manually going in and making sure that they are taking their tests and tracking them down and doing everything that we can so they can participate. And so I just want to give a shout out to Paula Williams for jumping into that data, and Tanya for that support from your department as well. Some fun things that we've been doing this year: we've gone fishing, we've gone bowling. Currently, right now, we've got our conferences, and we have Taco Tuesday. So it's great to see families and happy faces. And the thing that I want to leave everybody with the ALC is that we're alternative. And so I really wanted to talk about what is alternative about our schooling. And so I know you've been making a lot of decisions about what ALC, AEO might look like. And so alternative, I want you to think about that. What is that for our students? Thanks.
I suppose I should stand up since I'm in the way back row. I'm Ray Jackson. I am first year elementary principal at Myers this year. Previous, I was an assistant principal at Wardeen for 10, 11 years. So coming in this fall, I was extremely excited, and my goal was to listen and learn from my colleagues at Myers and watch. Our CIT is, just like everyone else has said, our school leadership team. They, at the beginning of the year, were my teachers and my support, just because, you think you've been in a district for 24 years and been a teacher and an assistant principal, and this is a whole new world. Kindergartners still scare me slightly, coming from the middle school realm, but I love it every day. Terry Hull, like many of you have mentioned, is also a huge piece and a huge support, as we are also an identified school. Our CIT has been working hard in the last handful of years, well before me, This year, on top of the amount of time their CIT has to put in, they also signed on for some significant out-of-school training through the University of Minnesota called Fast for Success. It is, again, many hours outside of school, but it focuses on the science of reading and interventions based within the classroom. We are also developing task force teams based on our 3 goals, which are around math and reading. And instead of calling it an attendance goal, we're calling it an engagement goal because attendance is part of engagement. And so we are developing our task force teams that are gonna have strategies that will help implement those areas so that we can improve our outcomes. I am especially proud. We are also a community school, and our Duluth Community Schools Collaborative Program this year has really stepped up and out, and a lot of that is due to COVID over the last couple of years. But like Brian has stated, the family nights and getting people back in the building, especially often families who don't have the greatest or should I say the greatest previous relationship as a student themselves with schools, and so bringing them in for really positive reasons. We had a co-night this spring as well with conferences and family night, and it was just, the pulse in the building was just amazing. We had books, bingo for books, and some gym activities and a parent activity as well as conferences. Teachers were able to come down in between of their conferences. The second night of conferences was just conferences, and it was like a lead weight. So we are really gonna look hard at next year of trying to implement a different strategy for conferences and doing possibly them spread out throughout the year with family nights embedded. We also are focusing on moving forward with PBIS. Myers kind of was a PBIS light school, meaning they implemented quite a few strategies, but hadn't in the past done the whole application and followed through, and we are now moving forward with that. Our PBIS team and our SEL team they're rock stars, and they blow me away every day at the things that they come up with for our students. One of the important things that our students really would say is important to them is the incentives that are offered for, we're doing a lot of tracking like other schools with positive behavior focused around lunch and recess, because that is quite a hot button area for some of our struggling students and behaviors. But students who earn that, and it is monthly, have earned different things like classes get to choose. So as a class they choose bingo, they've chosen a dance, they've chosen PJs and popcorn, but by far the most popular one was our fancy lunch. And if you'd love to see pictures, go on our Facebook page. It was quite the to-do. Some of the comments from kids were, "This is the best day of my life," which, they can be a little dramatic. But it was so fun to see kids dress up, staff. We had lots of extra staff come in and dressed up, served kids, talked fancy, had the whole cafeteria decorated. Lowell has also done this as well, and I'm sorry some of the other schools has, but it is a super huge hit. Last but not least, coming into a building, I taught for the first half of my career at the old Morgan Park with Mr. Stanholm over there, and the old Lincoln Park, and I feel like coming back to Myers is where I belong. I love this school, I love the community. I can't say enough things about waking up every morning and can't wait to go there and work together with the staff, but I'm especially proud of them because they choose to be there, their commitment, just to be there every day, to support, to love our kids, and to help remove those barriers just blows my mind every day. I think that's it.
So thank you for this opportunity to give you an update on our initiative of continuous improvement teams. As you can see, there's a lot of passion in this room. There are a lot of good things happening in our schools. So I hope I gave you a good overview. Yes?
And before we, would you?
No, go ahead.
Thank you, and of course, we would be remiss, of course, not sharing some insight, and as well as obviously allowing the board to provide some feedback to our principals. So I do want to start by saying thank you to our principals again for all the hard work you do. I mean, it's incredible. I was sitting here, as we started planning for this meeting, and thinking like, how's this gonna go? It's gonna take 3 minutes. How are we gonna really communicate in a clear manner to the community that we got this? That we got this for the district and our students. We recognize as a district there's some wonderful things happening in our schools, and we also recognize there are many kids who are not having the experiences we want. But I know that we have been focused over the last 3 years and before on really trying to improve outcomes for kids. And I know with this team here, you all have been working really hard. That means our principals and all of our other district leaders, others who will be presenting later on. I was going to say thank you for everything you do and have done and will continue to do for our students. Really, thank you.
And I just want to say as well that, we heard a lot about coherence. We heard a lot about alignment. We heard about best practices. We heard about systems and structures that are going to move us forward, and as well as just the heart and passion and hard work and soul that each of you bring to the work that you do. I think that that's what matters most. And we talked about what changes systems, and sometimes it is structure, and sometimes it is some supportive accountability and things. But what we know is one of the biggest factors in change in a school system is the school principal. A school principal shapes the culture of the building, shapes the direction of the building, and also supports the teachers in being their best. So when we think about who matters in the district, there are a lot of people that matter. The teachers are a huge impact, and of course, district office teams work to provide structure and support too. But you as principals, I couldn't be more proud than I am right now of the coherence and just cohesion that we're showing as a team and as a district. I also would say that as we put together our strategic roadmap and we put together the operational plan, which provides further support and further direction for where we're going, I think that a lot of what we've done here is lay the foundation, the groundwork, the systems, the structures, the teams. They're there and they're making good progress. This will provide more of the what as well as more of the how. And I can't be more proud than I am right now sitting here. I just want to. What did your students say about the fancy lunch?
This is one of the best days of my life.
That might be a slight stretch, but not. I'm very proud of you as a team.
Board members.
I'll just add my thanks, and it's nice to meet and see the new faces and the familiar faces too. So thank you all for being here and sharing what you shared with all of us today, and thank your staff for all they do, your CIT team, but really all the staff in the building that are helping these efforts be successful as we move forward. So thank you.
Yeah, I would just say, thank you all for being here. I really enjoyed hearing just how this looks different in each school, and like what you're all doing to kind of bring that consistency and systematizing, but then making it your own and meeting the needs of the kids in your specific schools. I just really enjoyed you sharing, so thank you.
Yeah, I think that we have wanted to see you for a long time, even last year too. We do. And I think sometimes Assistant Superintendent Bonds kind of protects you in a way and says, we're not going to bring, this is a lot of work to have you guys come in and share, and it's a lot of time. So, but we do really, really want to see you more. I think you have got an incredible school board right now. You do. There is just so many years of service, and there's so many board members that come almost right from the classroom. Many of us have a lot of experience in education, so we get it. We get it. Sometimes we have to hear it more than once, but and sometimes we just have to be strong ourselves and be bold and advocate for you. This board has been really committed to advocating down at the legislature. This is the biggest pot of money we've ever had. So, Superintendent Vegas was down there this morning, asking for more money. I'm down tomorrow, bringing our message and bringing, examples that are so real because, one, I've been in the classroom, so when they talk about mandating class size, I know what that would do to our budget, so, I can share a little bit about what's good about some of that and where we might do some of it. Or maybe I should shut up because you guys are more of the experts, but again, and I have just learned so much. I think almost every teacher should have to get either on a school board or, and I'm sure my colleagues would say she's drank the Kool-Aid, she's down there, but it has opened my eyes, especially I can remember listening to the principal's survey. Remember there was a big principal survey done and they presented 2 years ago, I think now, to MSBA and to significant places. I saw the presentation like 3 times from the 2 leaders that gathered all of the data. And it just was so eye-opening for me to understand that you are the academic leader, the tone setter. I used to just go in my classroom and figure you guys were doing your job, and I don't know, as long as I was doing mine, I didn't really know what you all always were doing. I knew you were having my back and keeping us moving forward, but significantly you are. And I love the team that our district has committed to, from all of your alignment to all of the, I think, the key people in key places that build a scaffolding of who you can lean into, who you can rely on, and who's doing a visionary ahead of you guys a little bit so you can keep working forward. And so it just, I'm gonna link this YouTube link of this meeting particularly into my Facebook page and into our school district's page, because all the things that you've shared, we get hounded on sometimes, kind of nasty, by not a lot of community people, but they don't think, if they don't see some significant, or, I don't know what they need to see that we are doing such great work. So I'm gonna share it out as everybody else will. Thank you. Sorry.
I'd like to thank everybody for coming too. It's nice to see the new faces. I know a lot of the old ones. I think the dedication and passion.
Those veteran ones, you mean?
Veteran. But it's reassuring and uplifting to hear the passion and in your voices. I was interested, I think it was Principal Jackson said kindergartner is kind of intimidator. Coming from a middle school, I find that interesting. I have a special place in my heart for middle school teachers. I think they deserve everything. But anyway, thanks very much, and I think we are reassured that there's so much interest and passion.
Thank you. In regards to next steps, we want to make sure that it is clear that this was just a summary of all the good work that's happening in the district. The various school improvement plans will be placed at some point on our district website for access by our community. So that's something that people can also look forward to. And as well as making sure that there will be opportunities for us to go deeper into some of the programming that we are offering, whether it's PIS or MTSS, some of those opportunities. We will be coming back to the council meeting to have deeper conversations and bringing some principals along to have those conversations for the community as well as for the board. So thank you again. And I want to say thank you to Dr. Lake as well for all of her work around this project. And so let's give her a round of applause.
And I know we're feeling very positive, and I want to keep that positive spirit. But I do want to put out 2 challenges to us as an organization, as a group, to be realistic. One of the challenges is, as we talked about funding, we need, as we talked about some of the positions, some of the supports we've had, much of that has been funded through the ESSER funding. And so we need to keep our pressure on the legislature, as Chair Lofold said, to make sure that we're continuing to look at funding. Because if, even with a 4% and 2%, with some of the mandates and things that are coming through, much of what we're working on in many of the structures, leadership structures, support structures, would have to be potentially looked at for cuts and elimination. So if we aren't able to go forward with support from the state, then we have to think about looking at how do we tell the story? How do we tell the story to our community? And maybe consider what we might need to do with an operational levy to support the framework and supports we have in place. So we have the team, we have the resource, we're ready to go, and I'm excited about that. That's challenge number one. The other challenge, it's not in particular order, challenge 1 and 2. The other challenge we have is we're about to hear 2 other reports tonight. We're about to hear a report on achievement and integration and the plans we have there. Some of the successes we're seeing, but also some of the challenges that we continue to face. And we also have our American Indian education concurrence, non-concurrence. And I think we all know that the achievement gaps that we had before the pandemic have to some degree become wider during the pandemic. And so we have great needs right now, social emotional needs, learning needs, support needs. And so I believe we have the team to do it. We have the structure to do it. Yet we still have challenge ahead, and we need to make sure that as an organization we have the resource to do so. So it's not meant as a negative thing. It's meant as a we can do it. I believe in us, and I'm very proud of Duluth Public Schools. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, sure. I guess I wanted to just leave us with a thought here. School improvement's not a mystery. Incremental, even dramatic improvement is not only possible, but probable under the right conditions. And you know, it's my hope that this continuous improvement work and this focus on this does bring those conditions of alignment, collaboration, inclusion, so that we can see that school improvement that we're all really working for. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, and I want to say thank you to this team because I know they've been patiently waiting to present. Nate Smith, our coordinator of education, and whoever he's would like to bring to the weekend. It's up to you.
Yeah, all right.
So Mr. Smith and his team will again be presenting the achievement and integration plan, and he will provide all of the insight on what is this thing called an A&I plan.
What is an A&I plan? Can you help me Comcast? You're gonna do that? Okay, perfect. That's on the presentation. All right, hello, school board members. How are you all doing? It's good to have a committee of the whole meeting that's full of really good quality information. I know many of you. My name is Nate Smith. I coordinate the Office of Education Equity here for the school district. I've been in this position for about 1.5 years now, although I've been in the district in different capacities since 2007 or so. I'm here to share a little bit about the Achievement and Integration Plan. We are presenting a new plan, so the Achievement and Integration Plan runs on a 3-year cycle. I brought a couple integration specialists here today. So if you have any questions about the work that the ISPECs do and what that looks like in relation to the plan, I would be happy to share. But the Achievement and Integration Plan is a state program that was established to meet those 3 goals of increasing racial and economic integration, reducing achievement disparities, and increasing access to effective and diverse teachers. So within this presentation is the old plan, the 21 to 23, and the plan that we are currently in, which ends on June 30th, and then the new plan, which begins through the next fiscal year right on July 1st, and continues through that 25-26 school year. There aren't really any major changes within this next program plan, in part because the district, we don't have the capacity to be pursuing any major new initiatives right now. We're also at the intersection of many different things that are happening, like the operational plan is getting completed, strategic planning is kind of coming to an end here, and our administrative team is in the MTSS cohort. So I did add a note though that as we continue to create system alignment within the A&I plan and all of our plans, we can always edit, update the plan with approval from MDEs. So just because it's a here presented now doesn't mean that we can't look and change it to make more sense as our district creates systems alignment. So we do have a couple small changes within the plan, and I'll cover that in a future slide here. But first, I was going to share a little bit about how districts get identified and receive revenue. Thank you, Caitlin. So there's 4 different ways that districts in the state can receive achievement and integration revenue. We can be a racially isolated district, which means that the enrollment of protected class students district-wide is 20% greater than the enrollment of protected class students in any adjoining district. So with Duluth, if you look at demographic trends, we continue to diversify. And so right now our nearest district that we're becoming more diverse is the Lake Superior District, and we're about 16% more diverse than the Lake Superior School District. So if you look at demographic trends, it's likely that we will become a racially isolated school district within the next 3, 4, 5 years, which would change up basically the designation status for why we receive achievement integration revenue. We also could qualify for being an adjoining district. An adjoining district is a district that physically adjoins a racially isolated district, and so Cloquet is racially isolated with their high populations of American Indian students. And although our city boundaries don't necessarily touch, they're still an adjoining district by the definitions of the boundaries that MDE has. But we currently receive and have received achievement integration revenue because we have a racially identifiable school, which is Myers-Wilkins Elementary School. And that means the enrollment of protected class students at that school is more than 20% compared with the number of protected class students within the district in those same grade levels. So the K through 5 students at Myers-Wilkins compared to the K through 5 district population, we have over 20% greater populations of students of color, basically, or protected class students. Myers-Wilkins has about 60% or so students of color and about 80% of students on free and reduced lunch. Districts can also request to participate in the Achievement and Integration Program voluntarily, but MDE doesn't approve voluntary requests very often, if ever, as far as I understand. So, but even if we are successful in desegregating Myers-Wilkins, because we received the funding because Myers-Wilkins is segregated, we still have the adjoining district kind of pathway to receive A&I funds, and in a few years from now, we'll be racially isolated. So, next slide. The racially identifiable school, I touched on this a little bit. It's just the enrollment of the students at Myers-Wilkins is 20% more. All right, next slide. So what does protected class students? So this is the definition from MDE. And they use this when determining eligibility for the Achievement Integration Program. If protected class students are just ethnicity categories, African, Black Americans, Asian Pacific, Chicano, Latino, American Indian, Alaska Native, and multiracial. So MDE uses the multiracial, but we use 2 or more races here, but it's the same thing. So a common misconception is the achievement and integration revenue is provided through a grant. It's not a grant. It's actually 70% state aid and 30% local levy appropriation. And schools who have racially identifiable, or districts that have a racially identifiable school like we do, are required to be in the Achievement Integration Program.
Will it throw you off to hold the mic?
No, not at all. Is that better? Oh, I suppose for the
yeah, for
people online.
Yes. Thank you.
Check 1, check 2. Okay, here we go. All right, how is achievement integration funding calculated? You can see the funding formula there. It's basically a fancy formula that was created to take into consideration the amount of protected class students within a district. But basically this means that every single student within our district generates achievement and integration funds. So it's about $190.95. Every student in the district does, which adds up to be about $1.7 million. Next slide. What do districts need to spend the money on? Strategies aligned with the MDE Achievement and Integration Program goals of increasing racial economic integration, reducing academic achievement disparities, increasing access to effective and diverse teachers. And what's not on here is also goals that support the desegregation of racially identifiable schools. The parameters for achievement and integration funding, up to 80% has to be spent on direct student support. So you'll see within our plan of the positions that are funding, the vast majority of those are positions working directly with students. Up to 20% on professional developments and up to 10% on administrative costs. I realize it adds up to 110%, but that's just the state legislative parameters that we're required to align our program with. So A&I input for state statute, the A&I plan is developed through input from the community. The Community Collaboration Council, so within our district that's EAC, the Education Equity Advisory Council, and we had 2 EAC meetings where we solicited input. Also, Google surveys were shared with all the members of EAC, and those surveys went out to over 100 people that are associated with EAC. And the American Indian Parent Advisory Committee, we only had 1 meeting that I showed up to get some input on, because I was, there was a family emergency for this last meeting, but we got input from the American Indian Parent Advisory Committee and also shared a Google survey with the APAC committee. We're not required to get input from the staff and families at racially identifiable school at Myers-Wilkins, but we held 3 listening sessions with over 25 staff at Myers-Wilkins and tapped into the staff and their networks to get input from the families there at Myers-Wilkins. And surveys were shared with all the families there at Myers-Wilkins. Oh, I can just really hear myself breathing.
Just hold it so close.
Okay. So here are the changes within the next A&I plan. Adding 1 integration specialist. So currently we have 11 integration specialists. We would be adding 1 for a total of 12 and expanding direct student support of the integration specialist to all schools. So currently we are not in Homecroft, Lakewood, Stowe, Condon Park, or any of our residential schools where we're providing service for students at AJC. So the next ISPEC will be able to support these schools and then pulling some of the ISPECs. So they're not 100% at their schools, but some ISPECs might spend 4 days a week at a school and then another day supporting some of these schools. A lot of these schools previously didn't have ISPECs because they don't have a high population protected class students, but we know that the students who are students of color at those schools still need some support. Another change within this next A&I plan is changing the Young Scholars Coordinator at Myers-Wilkins to the Site Enrichment Coordinator and Young Scholars Program Facilitators. So we have this position for the last 3 years. Stacy Ackerhoff recently left, and through conversations of improvement with Stacy before she left and with Ray Jackson, the principal there, talked about how we can improve that position. And so Stacy had previously been offering K through 5 Young Scholars support, which is basically like advanced learning or students who are accelerated in school and working with 100% of protected class students. We're gonna change that service from K through 5 to K through 2 because the district already has their E-squared program serving students at Myers 3 through 5. So then the A&I program can work with gifted and talented students, K through 2, and then they can transition right into the E-squared program. The Site Enrichment Coordinator part of the Young Scholars position is coordinating and collaborating with outside organizations to share enrichment opportunities at the school or bringing students on field trips to different places. So right now we do have a enrichment opportunity strategy within the A&I plan, but we don't have any anybody at the site facilitating the plan. So previously it had been the responsibility left into different positions at the school. So we're gonna have this new person do the enrichment coordinating with the integration part of that to advertise all the great things that's happening at Myers-Wilkins, with the idea that if families in the community through newsletters or social media, Facebook or otherwise, see all the great things and opportunities that are happening for the students at Myers-Wilkins, hopefully we will get more white families to come to Myers-Wilkins and more families who are not on free and reduced lunch to come to Myers-Wilkins. Let's see, the other changes within the plan are just the narrative strategy program adding alignment to the district's MTSS intervention model. So we went through and updated a lot of the narrative strategies to align with MTSS. And some updates to the KIP goals that are aligned with the narrative strategies and decisions. All right, so achievement and integration, these are our district-wide strategies and support. You have myself, coordinating the Office of Education Equity. We have Alyssa, who's back there. What up, Alyssa? The administrative assistant here in the office. We have 12 integration specialists, so that's adding one. That's the difference in the plan. We have a few ISPECs here. You all want to introduce yourself? We have Bridget Eckwood, who is an ISPEC at Denfeld High School. We have Bridget, you want to stand up? Wave, give a wave. Oh. We have Tara Hopkins Lopez, who's an integration specialist at Piedmont Elementary School. We have Meg Watkins, who's an integration specialist at Myers-Wilkins Elementary School. Ew. We have Mr. Cal Harris, who's an integration specialist at Lower MacArthur Elementary School. And we have Erin Gelano, who is an integration specialist at Denfeld High School. A cool thing about Bridget there is she was previously a student that worked with an integration specialist. Went to, was it St. Scholastica?
I went to Central High School, worked with Aaron, and then I just graduated from Scholastica.
Went to Central High School, worked with Aaron, graduated from St. Scholastica now, and is in our classroom supporting kids. Bridget is one of two ISPECs who we kind of grew our own with the relationships that were made with students and families. The other one being Kaya Ellis, who's an integration specialist at Orlean East Middle School. Oftentimes people ask, why have the integration specialists not solved the achievement gap? And I can tell you, the achievement gap is the responsibility of all of us. You know, the board, the district, every single person in the district. We have 12 integration specialists that cost roughly $600,000 or so. And each ISPEC works with 35 kids. So if you do the math, there's a lot more kids in there than there are ISPEC's ability to serve. Okay, other district-wide strategies and supports, we have our social emotional learning specialist. That's Taylor Walling. She's housed at Lowell Elementary School. She's helped a lot with our district MTSS handbook and working to ensure that we have a culturally responsive strategies and interventions that are being put to the handbook. We have our family engagement programming, which is led by the integration specialist. We have our Ojibwe language teacher and coordinator, that is Mamie Gwesikwe. Let me just take a breath because I kind of breathe. Mamie Gwesikwe, who teaches Ojibwe 1 and 2 at AEO, Academic Excellence Online. We transitioned the Ojibwe program to Academic Excellence Online to increase accessibility for students and to work to try to get the enrollment levels of that class up to a sustainable level, because previously, you know, we would have 1 or 2 kids in a class at East and, you know, 3 or 4 in a class at Denfeld, and the engagement dynamic is just different when you have such small class sizes. And also with the Ojibwe language program being offered through AEO, it helps Duluth Public Schools be a hub, will continue to be a hub for language revitalization in the state of Minnesota, because high school kids across the entire state can now take Ojibwe through our AEO class. Our Ojibwe teacher also recently got an approved agreement with Fond du Lac Tribal Community College to offer a level 3 college in the schools class, for language class, which will help with our enrollment disparities that we see with American Indian students enrolling in college level classes. So it's pretty exciting, and oftentimes language classes aren't approved for CITS before level 5, so that's kind of an exciting thing. And then some of her coordinator duties are providing language enrichment experiences for our kids in middle schools and also students in our high schools, and working on a language sign project. So if you all walk around East, when you walk into the building, you saw a sign in Ojibwe, and you're going to see some signs around the school here. That's the work of Mamie Gwesikwe, as well as some staff in the Indian Education Department. And she's going to continue to do that. So in our schools, you're going to continue to see more and more language signs in Ojibwe, which affirms the identity of a lot of our Indigenous students. We have our Office of Education Equity Recruitment and Retention Program. So this is a diverse recruitment and retention team that it continues to be in development, but some stuff that they do is go to job fairs, for example, or to community events. So we had a table at Juneteenth last year in partnership with our HR department to try to go to diverse places in the community to recruit diverse community members to come here and work for our district. So this year, the diverse recruitment retention team will be back at Juneteenth, and they're also going to be going to different powwows and stuff. Let's see here. Oh, and affinity groups are part of the recruitment and retention program, so staff of color have access to come and network, build relationships with other staff of color in more of a social setting to discuss climate dynamics and just connect with others. We have our Office of Education Professional Development Program as a district-wide strategy. Previously, now we offered the CARE Academy. When I came on, I tried to get facilitator training through the CARE Academy and through the NEA, National Educators Association, but because of COVID, they weren't offered facilitator training, so we partnered with the Minnesota Humanities Center last year to offer professional development for our staff. The NEA is now offering facilitator training, so I will be taking that, and within the new program plan is to get that CARE Academy approved to meet PLC standard, the cultural competency licensure requirements in year 2 of the plan. So not the 23-24 school year, but the 24-25 and after. And then moving on to the strategies and supports for our racially identifiable school, Myers-Wilkins. So you will see a disproportionate amount of investment at Myers-Wilkins Elementary School, and that is because Myers-Wilkins is our racially identifiable school. So we have the Young Scholars Program. I showed a little bit that's changing from the Young Scholars Program Coordinator to the Enrichment Coordinator and Young Scholars Program Facilitator.
Take a break.
I should have brought some water up here.
I'm fine.
Cheers. Yeah, easy.
And they just hold it a little for
You just rested almost on your, just kind of relax.
Like this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. I don't use microphones very often, so.
Yeah, that's perfect.
You ready for karaoke?
You ready for karaoke? That's probably the last time I use a microphone. Let's see here. Okay, so back to Myers-Wilkins. Our Young Scholars Program is changing, as I shared. We have our social emotional learning specialist. That's our licensed social worker, Liz Bakowitz, who does SEL enrichments for the students at Myers-Wilkins. We have our integration specialist, Watkins at Myers-Wilkins. We have 3 reading interventionists, with one of them being at Lowell. So part of the achievement integration plan is an equitable enrollment school choice option for students within the Myers-Wilkins boundary and students within the Lowell boundary to have school choice between schools. So if you're a student in the Myers-Wilkins, the achievement integration plan will support busing for to go to Lowell and vice versa. We ran some data and seen opportunity for improvement, so one of the goals here, at least within this next year, is to advertise that busing to 100% of protected class students within the Myers boundary. So being a lot more intentional about recruiting and sharing that that strategy for the busing with the protected class students within Myers. Just let them know, hey, you can go to Lowell. There's some great programs there that 3 schools there at Lowell. And that aligns with other equitable enrollment school choice options and other state programs, achievement integration programs. So then we have the one math interventionist, and all the interventionists use, like for example, the reading interventionists, they use a tool called the Reading for Light tool. It was developed by the formerly Teaching for Challenge, but now I think it's Learning for Justice program that's it's basically a guide about how to purchase culturally responsive instructional materials. And which includes our intervention materials, so one of the strategies is being able to support Myers-Wilkins and being able to provide instructional materials that are culturally relevant. The professional development program that's Myers-Wilkins, you all heard about the FAST training they're doing. That's really impactful. That's funded through the Achievement Integration Program. Research-based in-school learning opportunities and field trips. So there's money to support bringing in speakers who are representative of different cultures, or bringing students places just to meet that MDE Achievement Integration goal of increasing racial economic integration opportunities. And that new position will do a lot of the coordinating for those things. After school and summer school programming, this is through a partnership with the Duluth Community School Collaborative to support after school and summer school. Last year we also got a grant through the Northland Foundation, so we were able to provide a summer program for free for I think it's 6 weeks for over 60 kids. We have our 2 Ojibwe immersions assistants, so note that these are at Lowell, within the immersion classes at Lowell, to support the equitable school choice enrollment. And then lastly, the equitable enrollment transportation option, which is a school choice partnership. I kind of jumped ahead a little earlier, but that's, y'all kind of understand what that means. But that's the A&I plan in a nutshell. It's input, thoughts, reflections, questions.
First, I would like to say thank you to our coordinator, Nate Smith, for all of the hard work that he does and his team here. When we brought Nate on about a year and a half ago, he was, as you can tell, he was energetic, he still is, and he has a heart for this community, so I'm really proud of him and the work that he's doing. And as you tell all the things we're doing that he mapped out in the plans, there's a lot of resources that are being provided to students to really target the achievement gap, to really support students who are furthest away from justice. And so I'm bringing it up again because most often, similar to the reports that you heard from our principals and others earlier, this is also one of the district efforts to improve outcomes for all kids, make sure our BIPOC students, and again, students from furthest from justice, really have the learning experiences we want in our district. So all of the combined efforts, you heard Nate mention, or Ms. Smith mention, that we are really trying to make sure that the efforts are being graded. You heard him also mention MTSS, how he and his team now are focusing on aligning some of their work to support the MTSS structure to make sure there's alignment with what the principals are doing, what the district is doing, as well as various departments, and his department is also part of that process. So I want to thank him and his team for all of their efforts. So, questions?
I'd just like to comment as well and say thank you, Nate, and thank you to your team for everything that you are doing. I think one of the things that I mentioned that you addressed was that no one department can solely be held responsible for fixing everything related to systems of oppression and racism and things that have resulted in disproportionate outcomes for various student groups and families. And that in many ways you are helping facilitate relationship and somewhat lessening the impact of systems, but it's upon all of us to think about how do we collectively do our work and how do we collectively change the systems, and really reflection of the conversations we had in the first part of the presentation, that too is part of the work that we do to make sure that we change outcomes for kids. So I appreciate that you're thirsty for your work and very, very good at what you do.
Oh, yeah, I just wanted to say, well, thank you, Nate, for being here and for the presentation, and thank you for our achievement and integration specialists that are here today. You guys just do so much, and I feel like maybe sometimes in our community, they don't know all that you do, and I feel like I probably don't even know half of what you do every day, but I feel blessed to know to have collaborated with some of you. I know that you help get families food when they don't have food. I know that you help them connect to community resources and navigate systems. I know that you communicate with other community organizations to help support families and help support students. And I just wanted to thank you very much. So, and I'm glad we're adding another one.
Again, thank you. I've been able to see in Denfeld the work that Erin does too, and it just reflects, I know all of you do that, and so like Member Zadowski, I don't know half of what you do, I get to see a little sliver of it, but we also know too that relationships are just so important. They might not show us so much in data, but that relationship that we're able to bring to our students that need it the most, the ones that are on the fringe of justice, and allow them some success and some relationship and some caring and love and all of that, just means a lot. So thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Thank you.
So this will go, this is already submitted to our MDE, right?
It will be submitted after, I guess, the school board meeting on the 21st.
Okay, I think we have to sign something.
Yes,
And I know this is a lot of work to put together as well, so thank you for all of you for giving Nate and Alyssa the work and the data and the words to share with MDE so that they also, look at what we're doing and improve it.
Yeah. Can I just ask a quick question, Nate?
Yep, absolutely.
I am kind of, hung up on just the weirdness, strangeness of the 80% student support, 20% professional development, 20% administrative costs. I'll get past the math on that. I'm sure that came from somewhere else, the state.
Yeah, if you ever want to read a fascinating report on achievement integration, the legislature's auditor released a report, I think it was 2 years ago. It was basically a repeat of the same report that they released 15 years ago with some of the discrepancies within achievement integration funding, with that being one of them.
And then on a previous slide, it shows like 70% is that state aid?
Yep, 7% state aid.
And do we have unique levy within our own district for the other 30%?
Yeah, I think it's a state levy.
It's a state levy?
Yeah. So the state aid is funded through the general education funding at the state level, and then there's the levy. And I believe that was passed many years ago as a band-aid levy as a result of a lawsuit. I think in like the 80s or something, that originally started the desegregation program that changed in the 2009-ish area from deseg to achievement and integration.
If they just made that 40%, then the math would come out right. Correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Absolutely.
And again, even just thanks for, I don't think I've ever quite understood, I'm sure I've heard it before, racially isolated and then adjoining district along with the racially identified. At one point, under another superintendent, I thought we were really on a direction to try to do something, you know, like I always got the impression in my first year on the board that Myers-Wilkins as a racially identified school, we were supposed to, under state guidelines, change that. Find a way to change that? Is that our goal? Do we still continue down that vision?
Yeah, it's still, it's the goal built within the plan, and that's part why the school choice exists for students within Myers to attend Lowell. But MDE understands that it's really hard for districts to shift the demographics of communities. So, you know, the racially segregation at Myers-Wilkins is more of a reflection of where people live in our community versus a reflection of where we're putting the community in our schools, so.
And then I think I heard somewhere in your other, is that the enrichment that you attached it to the A&I plan, you know, could be attractive to families throughout our district.
Yeah, so I think as the enrichment coordinator, you know, publishes all the cool things that are happening, because there are cool things that are happening that like we're not even aware, so as we can get that word out in the community and kind of shift that reputation, because I think that there's a reputation about that school that doesn't really reflect how great it is there.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Nick.
Appreciate it.
Don't drink that water, and then if you really want a microphone, like, refresher course, you know, my theater background.
Speech, let's do karaoke afterwards, right?
Of course.
We've added that to the agenda, it's 4B. 4B.
Next up, our next presentation will be given by Denise Quaid, who is our American Indian Education Coordinator, and her team. They can come on up. They will be presenting or sharing the concurrence and non-concurrence.
And you can bring more chairs if you need, and that would be great. Yeah, there you go. Thanks again.
As they're getting set up and getting themselves ready to go, the Office of American Indian Education, very similar to the Office of Education Equity, it's one of our departments that really is here to really provide some concentrated, intentional support for, in this case, our American Indian students. So again, as we think about the achievement gap, think about the disparate outcomes that exist in our school district, this is one of the departments that offer programming for our students and for families. And as a district, we are similar to our A&I plan. We're trying to make sure that these efforts are graded with starting from our district strategic plan and cascading down through our school improvement plans and making sure that those efforts are coordinated. So you might hear some things related to HSS in their presentation and other things as well, how they support our students' behaviors and other things. So I'll turn it over to Denise. Thank you.
All right, thank you. How's this?
You can put it down more if you want, yeah.
All right. First of all, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to sit in front of you. I know over the years, presenting the resolution of concurrence and non-concurrence to the school board has always been like a side ache to me, because unfortunately, this is the time of year where we have to fill out compliance paperwork within the state of Minnesota with the Indian Education Program in regards to how is Duluth Public Schools providing academic, behavioral support for the success of our American Indian students beyond what we do for our students in American Indian education programming. But before we get started, I would just like to preface that over the past few years, I want to acknowledge the work of not only our superintendent and assistant superintendent, but our TLE, the different department heads, in particular, you know, our curriculum department, in coming forward and really helping us move towards compliance. But again, we do understand that we are very data driven. The data that we get, I understand, and our parent committee understands that it's just a small snippet of how our students are achieving, but that is the data that we go on according to this resolution. And so I just want you all to know that I appreciate the work of our team within Duluth Public Schools in making small steps forward in the success of American Indian students, but we still have a long way to go. We are not where we need to be. The data shows. I am a little concerned when it comes to this resolution of concurrence and non-concurrence. I really wish we could have went first so our principals could hear some of the concerns that we have so they can address them in their CIP meetings. I think that would be ideal. I do know that I had a couple principals reach out and ask me questions like, how can we be more inclusive of the American Indian perspective on our CITs? And I was able to give them some advice. And I thought that was really genuine of them to come to me. Like I said, we're making small steps in the right direction, but we're nowhere where we need to be. So before we start with our presentation, I just wanted to say that, and I also wanted to introduce some of our parent committee members.
Hello, I'm Phyllis Cole. I also used to work for the school district, and he was also my boss, and Jason, and Tanya, he's like, and Jill and whatnot, so. But yeah, so, and now I work for Fond Reservation, and which is good because, I mean, I work with our native youth that wind up at AJC, they're a lot detention facility, and then these kids are released with their conditions of probation, which is, education. So, education is big in my, it's important to me, and then it's important to have our native youth educated and help overcome some of these barriers and whatnot. So here I am, and we also have a 6th grader at Lincoln Park Middle School, and then our 4 other kids are all adults now, and all gone through Duluth Public Schools. So they're all graduated and 3-year college graduates. So they're doing okay.
Hi, I'm Brenda Goldfein. I am the staff representative on the parent committee. I went through Duluth Public Schools, but I actually live over in Wisconsin. Thank you. I've been working for the schools for this is my 25th school year, so it's been a long time. Half my life. I think I said at our last meeting, I hit that milestone. I've been the staff rep on this committee for probably about 10 years, roughly now. Every year when we present a resolution, it does feel like we're recycling the same things. Recognizing that change does take time, can take years. I feel like we've narrowed down, this used to be a multi-page task, and I think we've narrowed it down to a few key points, and we've appreciated working with the district on trying to stay focused on just narrowing down our focus. I think that's about all I wanted to say.
My name is Lydia Schickel. I have been a parent representative on the committee 8 years now. So I have 3 middle schoolers at Lincoln Park Middle School. Denfeld grad, co-hunters and Slowfeld, I go teacher. With her Evans, she probably does have some better person. And we come here every year, and like Brenda says, that sometimes it kind of feels like rinse and repeat. But I feel like every year we are able to change that progress goal, and like there are small changes happening. But there needs to be, the data shows frustrating when we looked at some of the data that American Indian students went backwards and everybody else went forwards. And everybody should be going forward every single year and not back. So we spend a lot of time doing this. We spend a lot on the committee ourselves working with our families and talking about that engagement. We have monthly activities that we do to get our parents to show up, get our families involved, get that, the buy-in when the parents are engaged with the school. The Indian school home liaisons, I think, are a really crucial part. They make kids want to go to school, to go hang out, go have lunch with my Indian ed staff, right? They have book clubs, they do meetings, they do stuff like that. So Indian ed does a lot, I feel like the community does a lot, but there are things that we cannot do without the district's support and funding. And Indian ed is not here to make all of our students succeed. I think, like you said earlier, it's not one department. But we just hope that you guys can meet our recommendations and have some great questions for us, and basically has lots of answers.
I don't have all the answers.
I said a lot.
Okay, thank you. So this was submitted to you all. I hope that you took some time to go through it. I wasn't sure how much time we have, so I didn't really put together a presentation, and I normally don't because I just want it to be an open conversation. And with this information, I know this is information, and what has to happen next is a response needs to be delivered by the school board within 60 days and emailed to myself and our parent committee, and then we'll go over the responses and send it down to the state. That's, we've been through this year after year. And so, I'm just gonna probably touch on a few things that I think are really important, especially in regards to some of the data that is in this document, and in connection to working forward on our MTSS, our Minnesota MTSS model, and also hearing the principals talking about their PBIS work that they've been doing. Some of our recommendations in here talk about addressing cultural inadequacies in intervention models. And as we move forward with MTSS and PBIS, I hope that we're able to look at some culturally specific strategies that impact the success of American Indian students. And if people are looking for ideas, I actually sit on a MDE board that we are actually coming to train Duluth Public Schools with through Callie and Jake. It's a culturally specific to American Indians on PBIS strategies. And so we'll be doing that training coming up in March or April. So that's one, when we give these recommendations, we always want to make sure that we have some solid strategy or advice backing it up. So, as you're reading the recommendations and it's talking about inclusive strategies, or intervention models, we always have data or resources that back up our recommendations. Also, in regards to the multi-tier systems of support, we also have strategies there through the MTSS model that would be very helpful. I do want to point out that when I talked about the curriculum department earlier, one of our big things that we've been working on is looking at the Minnesota state standards that are focused on American Indian students, or American Indian focused on Ojibwe and Dakota. And we really had a lot of input from Dale and his team, where they actually reached out to me and said, how do we do this? Help me figure out some resources. Another thing that I want to bring forth in regards to the progress would be culturally responsive classroom libraries. I'll be visiting the book warehouse this Friday to look at the American Indian specific books to give them input and ideas. I've also been looking at Ojibwe language specific materials for the Massachusetts classrooms. Those are hard to find, but I've found some with a lot of digging and determination. So, you know, with this document, because of data, because of just the lack of our students moving forward each year, as Lydia had shared, we are once again saying that Duluth Public Schools is non-concurrent. I also want to share with you all, and I share this with you every year, I don't know of any school district in the state of Minnesota that files that they're concurrent. I heard there was one, and I'm hoping to meet with them and say, how did you do this? How did your school district do this? And can you help us figure out how we can move forward with doing the same thing? We are not we're a medium-sized school district. And I think the school that has voted concurrent is a lot smaller, similar to Colgate, where they might have 2 or 3 schools. So I'm looking for ideas district-wide, statewide, to see what are some things going on. And a lot of it, I believe, is probably systemic-based, structural-based, looking at curriculum, looking at interventions, those types of things.
Thank you. We will.
Question?
Just a quick question. And kind of follow up on something that you said too, have we parsed the data to look at any specific sites within the district or programs like the SOCON program where those kids didn't go backwards? Have we identified any building, any location, any specific program that has helped you with those, a small percentage of students?
So that's something we actually talked about when we were making this, is that in the future, looking at more site specific and seeing where some of it is hard with data, because if there's less than a certain number of students, they can't give data because you could identify said students. But we are, as a committee, there's more than just us.
Yeah.
There is a large group of us. And that's something that was brought up when we were doing this as a team, is that when, just how everybody was talking, where it's like across the district, but site specific, because what's gonna work at Lincoln is not always gonna work at RD. We need to recognize that buildings are different, staff are different, students are different. So looking at schools that have like what's working at this school, what's working at this school, what's not working, and so that next year when we come, we're hoping to have some more like broken down site-specific recommendations.
And we did discuss that at tribal consultation. We've done several tribal consultations with Fond du Lac Tribal Council this year, and they do ask a lot of questions about data and why aren't our American Indian students succeeding. And one of the suggestions, and I'm hoping we can follow through with it as a district, is doing site data dives in regards to American Indian students, you know, but again, we might not be able to make, I'm just thinking of like data privacy, you know, with our students with, you know, there's 10 of us, you know, it's hard to get that data, but I hope through this process that there would be a way to work around it. If we do have a site that has 9 American Indian students and they're all not proficient, how do we still get that data and be able to help them without publicly saying at this site, you know, there's definitely, or I hope there should be a way around it. That's a good question, thank you.
Right, hold on, it's kind of going into what Paul said. There must be some American Indian students who do very well. And what is it about them that they are able to do well? I mean, I don't know who they are, but could you look at what are the factors to your cause? What are the factors that they succeed? Can that be correlated to other students? Rather than looking at who's failing, look at who's doing well. And look at that. And that's just a...
If I could jump in, only with a response to that, because you bring up a lot of really great wonderings and questions related to data. As we reboot our MTSS structure, a core component of that is data analysis and making sure we have some really usable and accessible data. We have already started as a district identifying potential data management systems that could hopefully disaggregate data, not just from state level data, but our own internal district data that we can really disaggregate and really go deeper into certain student groups and really say, how are these students faring, right? So we believe over the next year or so, we will have a better data system in place that will be able to provide some more disaggregated data that will highlight those students that are doing well and really provide some really more detailed information on how we can improve outcomes for students, whether it's in literacy or math or in other areas. So it's something that's in progress that we know is a big need in our district because we don't have it at this moment.
And also I want to add to that, we as a department, as a parent committee, we do recognize our students that are successful and we are aware of them. This particular document is to talk about how the district is not being successful for students that are, so I appreciate the question though, but we do.
At the last column is recommendations. I mean, what recommendations, based on students who do well, what might help that? This is just more of a philosophical question. I realize what this document's on.
Member Sadowski, did you have yours?
Yeah, I think it's great that you do so much work and then on top of it, you're sitting on this board at MDE that you talked about to learn about, was it culturally specific practices within multi-tiered systems of support?
It's actually a committee where we're creating like guidelines on how to look at resources to provide those multi-tier systems of support. So we do a lot of interviewing, we look at curriculum, we look at the social emotional curriculum that's out there. How do we make it more relevant to American Indian students and our perspective? But we also understand that when we say American Indian students, it's such a blanket term because we have so many different tribal nations underneath, over 500, and so we're really specific when we're looking at the data and creating resources that we are really looking at the percentage of different tribal people within our district or within our state, and that's how we are gathering and putting together some of those resources. So it's not like all American Indians need this or they need that, where it's really specific tribal groups.
Yeah. Well, thank you for serving on that, and I hope that we can kind of incorporate some of the things that you bring back, since we're focusing on MTSS right now.
So thinking about our vision, and it's my vision, but hopefully it's, I believe it's the vision that we all have, and that's to eliminate the opportunity gaps that we have currently. But not just reduce, but eliminate them, and also raise achievement of everybody at the same time. I think we see broad gaps now, and it's going to take time to close those, but we need to be ambitious in what the goals are, and ambitious about what progress we're making too. I mean, I would like to not feel like we're making small steps, but to feel like we're at least making great strides. It might take a while to get there, but if we take great strides, that's going to get us there more quickly than small steps. To achieve concurrence, do you feel that making significant strides equals concurrence, or does concurrence happen when we've eliminated the opportunity gaps and we have high expectations for everybody? So basically, is making good or great progress concurrence, or is achieving the vision and goal and eliminating gaps really where we get to concurrence?
I think concurrence would be that our students are graduating at the rate of their white counterparts. Our students are heard, seen in the curriculum, engaged. Their reading and math and science scores are at or above grade level. We all understand that the education system was definitely not here to embrace American Indian people, but to strip a lot of our language, culture, and ways of being. And that is one of the reasons why I proposed Masabikong, so we can kind of come back to repairing some of those historical relationships that were not good relationships. So as we're talking about data, I've been gathering data on our students in Masabikong, who our first class is now 8th graders, and being able to talk to them and say, what is making you so successful right now? Because most of those students that have graduated are out or aged out of our program who are now 8th graders, they're in sports. They're either on honor roll or merit roll. They're engaged in a lot of extracurricular activities inside and outside of school. So I feel the impact of Masabikong has really helped the students, but we need to look beyond that within our school district and say, how are we as a school district providing significant impact so our students, our American Indian students, not only who are in Masabikong, but beyond Masabikong are being successful. So yeah, I mean, it's a really good question. It's just like making sure that our students are at, you know, as I look at the world's best workforce and the goals that we have for all students, if our American Indian students are, you know, graduating at 85% and higher, I would be happy, but I'd be happier if 100% were graduating.
And I guess that comes to, like, if incredible progress, so we can still make incredible progress and we still will not have concurrence for a while, right?
Right.
So I think that's I want us to come next year and be, like I said, feel like we're making great strides as opposed to small steps. Not by, and again, like you said, it's not one department that owns it, it's the whole district, it's a whole leadership team. And I think that's what we're trying to embrace with having many more tribal consultations and really engaging that process more fully. But there's still a lot of there's a gap between what we ambitiously are wanting and what we're actually able to do right now. And I'm committed as superintendent. I know our team is wholly committed to that as well, and the board is too.
Yeah. I think follow up on where we began here. You know, I don't know if there's a way for you to bring this team in front of your principal team at some point in the future, since they didn't have that opportunity here tonight. You know, and maybe there's another creative way to do it, but
That's the plan. We plan on presenting it. We reviewed the plan today during our cabinet meeting with our leaders, and the plan is to present also at the East Bay Share at our Principal Plus meeting. So that's going to be in short order. So the next phase is to make sure principals are fully aware, because I was going to share too, the goal is to make sure that there's alignment across the district. You know, starting from our strategic planning process that the superintendent has already talked about. You know, we have spent a lot of energy this year as a district and last year, trying to include the voices of all stakeholders, including our students, families, as well as our staff. You know, we revamped our leadership structure to make sure that we have, you know, the teams. We have senior leaders, we have cabinet, we have cabinet plus, we have principal groups, we have all these different structures, but we're trying to make sure there's alignment of communication, efforts, and resources. And basically, and they also sit on our cabinet plus team, which is a team that ultimately provides, we call it implementation and monitoring of all of our district efforts. So they sit on the team that's going to ensure that the school improvement plans moving forward, the district plans that we have are all aligned and all address the identified needs of all of our students, especially students who are marginalized, especially students who have the largest gaps. And so they're gonna be part of those teams, and it's a process. We are, we've been developing these teams over the last year and a half, and we still have room to grow because we are still trying to improve communication and the flow of communication to make sure that there is alignment. So we're gonna continue to work on that. And what I just shared is how we're going to take this information next. Before we do a response, it will be moved forward to the various teams, including our principals, to get some feedback on how we ensure that we show significant growth, even if we are in non-concurrence next year. The goal of my mind is still to have, I'm always optimistic and ambitious on this, like have some areas where there's some double-digit increases in some of these areas, even if we're still in non-concurrence, but at least we can show in some categories that we made some great strides. And I say double digits knowing that in some areas it's going to be really hard to do, but in some areas it might not be. And I think we have to be ambitious, we have to figure out how to put these resources in place to improve outcomes for kids. So I'll stop there because I just want to share how we're going to move forward with the information that was shared here now, and how we're going to, what we're going to do before we bring it to the board for
The 60 days.
the 60 days for 60-day response.
Yep, 6-day response.
We meet monthly and our meetings are open to, I know Mr. Bonds has come multiple times, but our meetings are open to, we invite all of you guys to come to our meetings and be a part of those conversations. And principals, teachers, community members, it's good to have those input and those voices. And we, pre-pandemic, had student reps on the committee as well, and that is something that Jamie Rehnquist at Denfeld and Amanda Horton at East are working on getting, because like you guys were saying tonight, it's like the voices of our students, right? Because we're not walking the halls, we're not sitting in the classes, we're not the ones who are taking those tests and interacting with those staff members. And so we are working on getting some more student reps back onto the committee to get a bigger picture of a voice of what they need, because it's about them.
When is your meeting again? I know that we were having a board meeting on the same night, but is it the second Tuesday?
Tuesday.
So it still is on our board night.
The March one got switched to Wednesday.
The 22nd.
It's the 23rd now.
There's an opportunity.
22nd.
Just two.
Oh, I thought it was tomorrow.
Yeah.
I had it on my calendar for tomorrow, I was like, I could probably make one.
Oh.
I understand data, and I certainly am not gonna, I understand data, but I also know from just seeing all of you, seeing some of our students in the Western community, seeing some of your home liaisons, there's a lot of relationships and a lot of great things happening that doesn't reflect in the data, but that's just my thing. And that's always been my thing, even as a teacher, just, I saw the students all the time, and then there's these data things that come out, and it's like, oh, it makes it look so negative, but we'll keep working. I really love I love the conversation, kind of a courageous one with superintendent saying, will we ever get to concurrence? Because there have been times, and so it's helped me to go to the tribal consultation meetings that we've had, and non-concurrence should be okay. We should not, feel like it's such a big negative. We're making progress. You clearly identify where the direction is you would like us to go, and we will see what we can do and keep working forward. But I think in my first years on the board, I was really, I was just confused as to how can we do concurrence, and being afraid that we have to get to concurrence, and there's a journey there, and we should accept the fact that if we're making progress, and we are optimistic and we have progress, but we still don't see the graduation rates or the test scores or the data that reflects a concurrence, we should be okay. I'm not going to challenge you, Denise, on your comment about how many schools do get concurrence. There probably isn't many, but every school board meeting about this time of year is having their concurrence and non-concurrence because it's a state statute. So I have watched other bigger districts. It's about a 5-minute presentation or conversation. It's not presented with many of their advisory committees, usually just someone like Denise coming and sitting at the table. And the ones that I've watched, and I think I've only watched 5, and they've all given concurrence. But I think they're really just checking the box and walking away. So I give kudos to the years you put on, even before this current administration, to continue the advisory committee, continue authentically representing and bringing to the board, you know, the things that we need to work on as a district. I actually, you know, I just really did think about that. And they're usually bigger districts that maybe don't have significant populations. And so, but I really like the rich process we have. Just the one other comment, I'm fascinated by this, and it's so interesting because I haven't worked with MTSS, that's a new framework since I've been in the classroom. But PBS was going on at Denfeld, like Tom Tustin said earlier. We were really an early on border to that. Before we even went up to Central and closed Denfeld for a year, we were a PBIS. And the fact that you are looking to address cultural ways of making sure PBIS and MTSS are authentically for our students that are Indigenous. Because I would imagine there are some things within, I just think of the PBS framework, with the recognitions and with these, you know, with some of the pieces might not be culturally, you know, friendly to our American Indian students. So I think that the training for PBIS and inclusiveness with our Indian students is really important. So thank you. That's really great.
I just want to touch on one thing that Lydia brought up, just so you're all aware, so it doesn't look like we are recycling. We understand as a committee that change takes 3-4 years, and so we look at the goals and we say, well, we didn't really move. We're just going to use the same goal to see if there's any progress, because we do understand that it does take time. And also, this document used to be what, like 12 pages long?
Oh my God, the first year that we heard it down.
And as a district, we understand if you have 12 pages worth of goals that you're trying to hold the district accountable to, who's ever gonna meet that? So we realize, and we're, you know, smart enough to say, we understand change takes time. We narrowed it down. We aligned it with the world's best workforce goals, which they previously were not. And so I feel like I have a really amazing parent advisory committee. They're committed, they're smart, they're not afraid to ask hard questions, not only to me, but you all. And so I just appreciate the time that they took today to sit through the meeting and the other presentations to be able to come and present. Thank you for your patience, because mine was wearing. No.
It's hard, we understand.
And I think I might have said it at the very beginning, but I can't recall, because I'm trying to make sure I don't, you know, lose sight of it. Thank you for your efforts and leadership, and thank you for parents as well, family members as well. Because, you know, we need everyone to really embrace all of our kids, especially our American Indian kids, to make sure they achieve. So thanks. English. Thank you.
Thank you. And board members, because this is somewhat of a more or less formal, we do have, I was supposed to add something to agenda. And we can add it. We have another item on our agenda.
We don't have a motion.
We don't, we're gonna just bring up the next presentation, right?
Correct. And so I will call, right?
This will be a great way to end our meeting.
The Denfeld Alumni and Community Group, so that they can share a presentation related to the renaming of public school stadium. So as they're getting themselves set up, I am going to circle back to, and then give them time to get themselves set up. I do want to share, as they're getting themselves set up, all the presentations that we shared today, our principals coming, having a chance to share the school plans and the process. Our two presenters, presentations by Denise Quay and Nate Smith, Chief of Integration and American Indian Ed Planning. Again, this is one of our days that we want to make sure that the community knows that we are working diligently on improving outcomes for kids. In addition to everything shared, and I'm talking to you, getting that up. There's so many things in terms of resources that we have provided to improve outcomes. I'm going to quickly rattle them off. This year, with the use of ESSER funds, we provided additional, over the last 2 years, additional reading intervention and math interventionists for sites. Sites receive interventionists in the form of behavioral support positions. We added several classroom positions to reduce class sizes both at elementary, middle school, and high school. So class size reductions occurred using those ESSER dollars. We had meetings with students and other support staff at sites that really needed to shore up their learning environments by changing that positive, by creating a positive culture. And so we provide additional support in the forms of deans and other instructional staff for certain sites. We purchased additional technology for all of the students and staff, including smart boards and other devices. We purchased a lot of materials for our libraries. They all receive, collectively, they received $100,000 to replenish some of their resources in the library and focus on multiculturalism as well as multicultural authors, so that students see themselves and select resources from the collection that they have. We provide extended learning opportunities for students through not only our community education department, but also through, again, using all ESSER dollars, providing extended learning opportunities through field trips and other experiences. So staff have been able to take students on outings and field trips that extend their learning environment beyond the school day. And again, this is all because of the available resources through our ESSER dollars, all focused on improving outcomes, improving their learning environment, and making sure, again, as I want to make sure I convey again, that as a district, we focus on improving outcomes for kids, and we're trying to make sure all these efforts are alive. So, thank you. And I would like to turn the presentation over to Principal Tuscan, who can then introduce our presenters. So, thank you.
Hey, good evening. It's nice to be back in front of you. We are assembled here to talk about renaming Public School Stadium. I'm joined by Joe Uglich, who is a retired Denfeld teacher and grad, and Tim Doyle, who is also a grad and a very involved community member. We'll talk a little bit more about the members of that team. That's why we're here tonight, so thank you for the opportunity to talk about this. In addition to all the other wonderful things that are starting to happen at Denfeld, both academically and behaviorally, we also have this great opportunity to capitalize on one of the nicest athletic facilities in northern Minnesota. The renaming collaborative, and we'll kind of talk a little bit about how we got here in a minute. But here are some of the key people that have been involved in this. Myself as a principal and graduate at Denfeld High School. I was also coached football for 10 years there. Tom Pearson, who's our activities director at Denfeld. For those of you that may not be aware, his dad was a former superintendent of schools and a Denfeld grad, and Tom Pearson himself was a Central grad, so has deep roots in both communities. Joe Uglich again, who's our resident historian. He did write a book about Denfeld history, which you can check out from the Denfeld Library, which is fantastic. Alana Oswald, who's one of your colleagues here and a Denfeld grad. Tim Doyle again, one of our biggest Western Duluth community involved members. And then we also spoke to the group I mentioned earlier. We brought this to our goals group at Denfeld, getting some student feedback from contemporary students going to Denfeld High School. So that is our group. We'll talk a little bit more about the people we involved as well. And really, as we, this kind of came together organically, and you'll hear a little bit more about that with the timeline, but that's where we are.
Thank you all for your time. How this came together very organically, as Tom had mentioned. I was the president of the Denfeld Alumni Association a couple decades ago, and one of the first things we did is contact every living Denfeld alumnus for close to 100 years, and got about 75% of them to respond, and we have their contact information here. We wanted that in case anything in the future was pertinent to the Denfeld community, and it turned out we needed a few dissections during the red plan. And then myself and another former Denfeld alum and Duluth School District employee, Richard Swanson, him and I decided we wanted to have a Hall of Fame, and we had 7 decades of male and female hunters from the 40s on up to the 2010s, and we chose a Hall of Fame. I'm sure all of you have seen that Hall of Fame when it Danville by now at some point in time, and of course that took years also. Then because the Dick Swanson, because he was also a coach, he knew most of the coaches around the state, and we wanted to know, was Walt Hunting in the Hall of Fame? And he wasn't in the Minnesota Coaches Hall of Fame, and he concluded very simply that the Minnesota Coaches Hall of Fame started in 1972, and Walt Hunting had passed away in 1957. We thought they just don't know him. And so we sent his stats and his data down, and they just basically said, oh, he's in. His numbers are incredible. And so then Swanee and I decided, we didn't, it wasn't just us deciding, it was the whole alumni board doing. Well, public school stadium used to have 5 high schools playing there, Danville, Central, East, Morgan Park, and Duluth Cathedral, and for Roman Catholic private high school. That has turned into Marshall background. And so when the Red Plan came in, then it was obvious that each school had their own stadium. Well, this seems to be a natural next step of like naming public school stadium. Well, that's when Swanee ran into Alana, just I think up at the Bell House, and said, how do you do that? And she said, that's a good question. We looked into that. And that was at the end of 2019 and really beginning of 2020. And then, of course, in March 2020, COVID exploded, and she wrote back to us, boy, this is gonna have to go on the back burner. We've got to, well, you all know you were here by then, I was like, well, you got your hands full, trying to figure out how to deal with that. And so that just came to the back burner. And then, sadly, Swanee passed away with cancer. And I really lost my, kind of lost my alumni partner in doing this. And then the NHS person at Danville, Gina Holiday, said her NHS speaker backed out on him 24 hours before the ceremony. And she asked me would I do the speech that night, and I said, sure, I'm like 10 years old, but I can still give you all. And Tim was in the audience, and Tim was a former student of mine, and of course I taught with Tom for decades. And he came up and he said, hey, you know, we named public school stadium, and I'm like, really? So we should really go to Tom and, you know, let's go through the proper channels of all this. And we go to Tom and he says, yeah, I just had a meeting 3 months ago about that. And I'm like, so we're all thinking the same thing. So when Tom said it was organically, it is very true. It just, all 3 of us at 3 different places in the world all thinking the same thing. So that brings you fully up to how we came to this place.
Great slide.
Well, I think the nice thing about the slides is it doesn't, I guess, project that we're just coming up with this idea last minute and throw it at the wall and see what happens. I think it's very well thought out. So, with all of the transition and discussions, we've had meetings with Tom Pearson, athletic director, and then also a meeting with Superintendent Agus, and then the other administrators of the district, the CFO, and within that meeting it was really helpful to learn the policy, procedure, and what needs to happen before we even come here. And that's what we've been spending the last several months doing. The objectives for this evening, and we're going to try to keep this, main job. Luke is a history buff, and I could sit and listen to him for hours, but I know you don't want to get out of here. So, but no, objectives, formalize Walt Hunting Stadium and Mark Eichmann Field. In the actual policy, it does talk about 2 or 3 different options that it could be. And the one thing that we have discussed, are the options, or some of the other options. And really, I mean, you keep it public school stadium, or you could have the Walt Hunting Stadium, Mark Eichmann Field, or you could flip those. So this is our, after talking to all the stakeholders, this is our recommendation as far as formalizing this. The other thing that came out of this was, it was actually pretty cool from a community standpoint, is Duluth Central really has lost some identity as it relates to their school and as it relates to a place for them to hang their hat. A really cool byproduct of this whole discussion was the Duluth Central Alumni Association. We contacted them about celebrating them within this public school stadium heritage and name change. So that's actually, as part of this whole proposal, it's not just going to be a name change for Danville, it's actually going to be, if you've been to the Heritage Center in Lincoln Park, we're going to try to project something similar for the people of the team, the leaders, and really everything that's been there before. So, and then talk about next action steps in the timeline. So that's our primary objective, the honorary name. That is first and foremost the most important decision we have, and we'd like you to formalize. We'd be remiss to mention, or not mention, the likelihood of, after we do this, the media buzz, the buzz throughout Western Duluth, the business community, will be there to have the potential or high likelihood of somebody wanting to buy into the story of the corporate sponsor. Okay, so that's something that's come in discussion, but that's something that does not have to happen for this honorary name. That's something that would potentially happen afterwards. So I'd like to make sure that we're separating those, because when we want to have you approve this, this is only to approve the honorary name change. And just to highlight some of those recent corporate sponsors, we'll talk about those on another slide. And then also the significant opportunity that lies in those corporate sponsorships, if that eventually is tied into at a later date. So.
Who are we asking you to name this after? First of all is Walt Hunting. Walt Hunting is the namesake of the Denville Hunters. And the Denville Hunters High School is one of the only, I think, one of 5 high schools in America that are named after 2 actual people, because most have eagles or hawks or greyhounds, and they usually an animal. And so that makes it kind of rare. And how it became the Hunters was Denville football team coached by Walt Hunting from 1927 to 1955. He was also an employee. He was I can't think of the proper gym teacher, I think more of a political term. And he was also an assistant, a counselor and assistant principal. So he moved to the chain of command, but he was most known, he coached almost every sport, so during the Depression, so kids could be kept busy and out of trouble. But he was most well known for football. He coached football from 1927 to 1955. We won 14 city titles, 6 undefeated teams, and had a winning percentage of 70% over 3 decades. And Denville got to be so good at football during the Depression that they had to schedule teams from other states to come in because nobody would play Denville anymore. One year, we outscored our opponent 252 to 6 for the one there. I mean, they were crushing people. And so it became known as, a mecca of excellence. And in that, because of that, he was asked to submit an article to the Athletic Journal. Today, that would be like being contacted by ESPN and say, would you write how will you do this? So he would, he went to the Newt Rockne coaches clinic when Newt Rockne was still there. They won 5 state championships in his tenure, 4 unofficial, 1 official, because the state high school league did not have an official tournament until well into the middle of the century. So generally, if you were undefeated, some newspaper author would say, you're the state champions. 1 was official because the Minneapolis Tribune came up to give the Lipton House trophy to him after a win. During his tenure in 1947, Walt Hunting started an African American tailback along with the quarterback to be the star of his team. He did this a decade before the Supreme Court outlawed segregation in public schools. The top male athlete of the year is named the Walt Hunting Award winner, and it's been that for decades. When we were crushing teams and as kids and adults were at the stadium, when it used to be the building was where you would get dressed and you would run across the parking lot to get into the stadium. And in 1935, as Denville was crushing people, somebody yelled out at the top row looking as the kids were finally running to the stadium and said, here come Hunting's Hunters in 1935, and the name was stuck now for a century. Mr. Hunting was also a World War I veteran. He was inducted by unanimous admission in 1966, and as the late Dick Swanson and I submitted his paperwork to be inducted into the Minnesota Coaches Hall of Fame in 2020. My favorite quote from that I had found about him was in 1952. It was the silver anniversary of having coached at Denville, and it was in the gorgeous Denville auditorium where he was brought up on stage, and this was part of the quote. Quote, "It isn't championships won that made Walt Hunting great. Nobody could be associated with him and not be better for it." And the last line was, "For he represents everything that's great about America." Of course, this was the middle of the Cold War. And they said that about him, it was a lot. When we were going to induct him to the Hall of Fame, the former Duluth educator, also Raleigh Strand, was his last coach, or excuse me, captain of his football team. And Mr. Strand went on to coach at Morgan Park High School for years. And when Swanee contacted Mr. Strand, who was in his mid-80s, said, "Would you write a recommendation for Coach Hunting?" And he says, "I'll get up out of my assisted living, I will drive down there and let them know that they must put him in there." And I was telling my partner Lori, I said, "Imagine this man's been dead 70 years and he still elicits that sort of reaction. Like, I will get up out of this assisted living home and go down there myself." And I said, we just don't have a lot of mental women like that anymore. We need more people like this in our country. The second we'd like to name the field for is Marv Eichen. Marv, thankfully, is still with us, and he is in very good mental and physical shape. He was the only coach, Denville started playing football in 1914, so it's been over 100 years. There's only two guys that have 70% winning percentage, Mr. Hunting and Mr. Eichen. Mr. Eichen coached from 1971 to 1983, and though he's in his mid-80s, he still comes to every Denville football game and just sits and watches. He doesn't tell the coach what to do, he doesn't butt his nose in, he's much too classy of a guy for that. He helped coach the Northern Minnesota Championship in 1975, and he was offered and accepted to coach the North-South game, where he was the only high school coach north of Hinkley to be asked to coach in the All-Star football game, and he did. He was also, Marv Eichen is one of the few people that can get in the Hall of Fame for two different reasons. He could have got in athletics, and he could have got in just as a pure educator. Marv won the Greg Irons Award in 1992 for his excellence in education. Also, like I said, he was also the boys union leader, and he was a fellowship of Christian athletes advisor and curriculum innovator in the classroom as well known. He created two courses in his head that are still taught at Denville over a quarter century later: civil criminal law and international world studies. And when he went on to put out CNC law, many attorneys in Duluth are from the speech and debate program at Denville. Now, don't blame us for these attorneys. But when he put out the word, "I'd like to start a course," he was inundated with legal materials, and it's been passed on to all of us who got that course. And I would tell students, I said, "You understand, thanks to Mr. Eichen and his former students who are lawyers, you're really getting a freshman college course in high school," because he had literal legal texts and cases that were given to my former students who were attorneys. And Marv Eichen was inducted, much like Walt Hunting, by acclamation. When we sat at a table and you evaluate and get feedback, kind of much like the board, what we like about this person, what we don't like, what their attributes. When it came to Marv Eichen, his name came to Marv Eichen, and we all said, "That's unanimous, isn't it?" And we said, "Yeah, okay, let's go to the next person." If we ever come to the situation of corporate branding, any corporation in America would love to brand their corporate name with these two men.
So part of this, you think about the heritage concept, or you think about any of the great stadiums that communities have invested in over time. Part of it is telling your story. While I'm a Denville guy, I believe we're in gold, I also grew up in Morgan Park. So I grew up a block away from that high school, so I know what it's like to have high school closed. And so part of this, when you pull up in front of Denfeld High School, there are banners, those are the banners that you see. We have banners representing Morgan Park and Central in front of Denfeld High School. And we want that concept to continue because while those schools have closed, those communities still are vibrant and thrive, and they still have a long memory of what those high schools meant. So when you look at the backside of the public school stadium, you'll notice, and this is in the pavilion part or the plaza part right side of the gate, there are literally concrete pillars in that open concourse. So part of the idea is to use those concrete pillars to help tell our story. And one would be focused primarily on NFL football, one would be focused on Central High School. You can see that we did have contact with Barb Darland, who was she's trying to get the Alumni Association from Central High School off the ground, as well as one of the alumni from Morgan Park, Julie Lowe, who also was a former Denfeld employee as well. So dedicate a pillar to Central and Morgan Park, as well as Denfeld football, and then also another pillar that recognizes many other activities that have since now find a home at public school stadiums as well, like track and field, soccer, etc. And then you'll see that it also has a pillar monitor down there, which is harder to see for people talking about people like C.J. Ham, Wally Smith, Doug Bray, Pat Berquist, and many others who have played on that field to great acclaim. So part of this was this organic coming together, people having the same idea and finally all coming together with the same idea. Part of it is also then reaching out to the kids that go to Denfeld currently, and part of it is also reaching out back to the Central Morgan Park communities to say, hey, here's what we're thinking of doing, and here's how we want to incorporate your heritage into this reading process.
Okay, so after our meeting with Barb and Julie, I think it was more an hour and a half, they sat afterwards and they were just flowing with ideas, they were excited. I think we were a sounding board a little bit for, we just sat there and listened to them, and they were very, very excited about the fact that they can take ownership and run with this. They're gonna own that pillar, or they're gonna own, and we'll take a look at this in just a second, but they're gonna own part of that stadium and deal with design and the community alumni association design. Barb is also, the other two people, Gary Doty and Don Metz are the other two people that are involved with Barb in making sure that the Area 3 Duluth Central is celebrated. Okay, next slide. The other really cool thing is we present the Denfeld goals student group, and I think Tom may have mentioned this, but the nice thing is you look around the room and this group of students represented, they're diverse group that Denfeld has. So there was a mix of students from all different walks of life, okay? And the really fun thing for me to see, because I don't live around and I appreciate it more, but how these students, started getting engaged. There were a couple of students that came up to us afterwards and said, you know what, we can't just have names in the stadium. People need to know why those names are there. I mean, this is a 16, 17-year-old kid coming up to us telling us. So the engagement that we had with the kids we presented them was amazing. I would say that we did send a survey post presentation to them, and we didn't include all the survey responses here because there was no red flag. There was actually so many different good ideas, and so we're gonna have a lot of boots on the ground, so to speak, to run and really help us out with this from an overall standpoint. And I think it's very important for the school, for the community, for the store part of this that the students are involved. So the 4 pillars that Tom mentioned, you can see down below. Those are the 4 pillars. They're much larger than that person because this is taken from afar, but we approached. We met with Tom Peterson. Tom did say that there is a public school stadium budget within Denfeld that he manages, that from a budget standpoint, he would be able to do a wrap each pillar with whatever somebody decides. Okay, so one of the questions that came up right away when we presented it to administration was, okay, this might cost something. Well, Tom assured us, he told us what the budget is. We can celebrate the heritage thing and renaming with what we have in place right now. So, and then up on top there, you can't see, but there's actually 16 separate panels above the pillars. Okay, another idea that some of the students had were, hey, how about, Central or whoever it might be owns one of those sections. All of a sudden now you have 4 pillars and then you have the Heritage PSS under the stadium above. So that is continue to flow. One that the students really wants to see J. Ham Bronze statue, which I'm like, hey, yeah, absolutely, we get budget for that, great. But just so you know, we really looked at, okay, we can move forward with this renaming with very little budget because, Duluth signed a partnership we have with them in Tom Pearson. They're willing to do this at a very affordable rate. So it could take on a whole new, different approach, but we'll go from there. So this is completely separate. Now I want to make sure I'm clear about that. Honorary naming is what we really want to happen, and we want it approved in our list, okay? Starting after that, we would team up with the Dell, and we would team up with the district to go out to the community and take a look at different partners, potentially for corporations. Personally, with what I do for work, I work with the NFL and a major branding partnership with them, with Invisalign, and so I have some really good experience in working with corporate sponsorships, as well as I was in charge of all the corporate sponsorship for hockey in Minnesota when it came to Duluth. So I'm very comfortable with that arena, and so working with the folks in the district, I think we can definitely come together with something really positive. Couple of examples recently, Sanju Harbors just sponsored a rink. It's really kind of a tin shed local hockey rink. No, not, putting it on at all, but it's just a pole barn, and they give $300,000 to put their name on it. Okay, this is, obviously we're showing I think, much more valuable option. Hermantown football field, Centricity donated $1 million to Centricity, a credit union football field in Hermantown. Just recently, North Star Ford, $1.2 million to Hermantown rink that's going to be built next year. Superior has had 2 corporate sponsors in the last 20 years. I wasn't able to take up, but there have been 2 big corporate sponsors at the Superior football field. So this will happen after we get this momentum, but that's down the road. We've already, there's a discussion. The fun thing is when we talked to Tom Pearson about this, he right away sent his email with, Daxtronics scoreboard, he's been trying to get it going for a long time, and now he's talking about, hey, that would be awesome because that could pay for some of these stadium improvements that I've been looking for a long time. I do want to mention this though because I think it's important that when we do this, just like other things that have happened, where I collaborated with the folks on the east side of town, hockey in Minnesota, this will open up a door for Duluth East. Okay, they will have the potential to say, this is possible. These are some of the people and some of the businesses I want to approach, and so I think this is going to be a nice, step for the other school as well. So, I think that that's something that is something that can come, from I guess, east-west partnership, eventually. So, okay, next steps are formal approval. So, it sounds like that this would eventually go for a vote at the next school board meeting as far as what I'm aware of. And then set monthly timeline for action items, public relations and media relations, work with the Dell on that, begin corporate sponsorship process with Simone, and take a look at, okay, what are some of those options? The unveiling ceremony. So we met with Eric Wolfall and Jill last week, and Eric is beyond excited as far as setting that date and really moving forward with this. And then working with the students, Pearson and Tuscan as far as when that date and when that will be. And then we talked about before, including the other stakeholders and groups. So we've really not just checked off the boxes here. We've actually gained a lot of momentum and excitement to not just the Danville community, but the central alumni community and then the William Park community. So, I mean, we're ready to move forward with this. We just want to make sure that we address any questions you have, and then also, you know, really work closely with the district on this.
Questions?
I'll go first. I guess it's exciting. As a former Danville coach and also a former Central coach, you know, to me this is an exciting thing to see happen, especially you know, now that we are down to 2 high schools. I find it ironic we were in East High School and then presentation. What you said is true. I mean, you know, it does pave the way for, you know, East to pursue something similar along these lines with again, corporate sponsorship that helps supports the needs at our field. You know, maybe the corporate sponsor will also fix that hole in the track and, you know, make their donation that would, you know, provide for improvements going forward. I guess the question would be just the history of PSS and how many I'm going to ask the history teacher, how many renovations has that gone through over the years? Because when my son and my family first moved to Duluth, and my son was playing games down there, and I remember going down to watch games in a stadium where you didn't want to sit down in the seat because, you know, you might be pulling splinters out of your end when you got up. So
the original stadium was built in 1930. And the major renovation that you would look at PSS was 2000. And I think there was one more. Was there anything more after 2000?
No.
Okay, so I guess we were in 93 years.
So the original site, and then this one was a community effort, because it wasn't just school district funded, it was Charlie Bell,
Bill Westholm.
Bill Westholm, a lot of funding together to get that off the ground, because it was so horribly, and I mean horribly,
You're exactly right, it was a
rusted
That was
infrastructure.
the original stadium that existed for
from 1930 to 2000, 7 years, correct.
before basically the renovation of
Yes.
PSS now
Yep.
is the current, or this is the first renovation of that stadium.
Yeah, 2000 was the only renovation that I know of in 93 years. And as Tom correctly stated, former West Duluth business person Charlie Bell, the late Charlie Bell, and the former principal Bill Westholm were instrumental in looking at the state and renovating everything. And so that's your answer twice in 93 years.
Now I'm not Duluth, but again, I taught at William Park and coached at Central and Danville, and I do like the ideas that keep the flavor, you know, just sort of that PSS kind of heritage that goes along with.
That's why it would be kind of fun to go through and contact other former coaches, but who were the best, you know, girls soccer players in the 1980s. Let's get a picture up there, you know, and you know, former coaches and whatnot, and you know who should be represented. It's exciting. It's exciting the possibilities here. So that's the answer to that question.
So I don't have any real questions other than I'm not real sure. I mean, all of us are really just getting this. I was able to sit with you last week, but you know, other board members, it hasn't been on board book. I would imagine we don't want it. I don't know what the legal part of not having that, you know, we add this to the agenda. It's a less formal meeting, but I don't know if we have to load this up. I know that we don't, you know, we don't have, it's not approved yet, so we don't have to worry about that yet. But I know that it gives me confidence when you met with our CFO, Simone Zunich, and our principal. You know, we knew that this was coming down before the pandemic, so our CFO, Kathy Erickson, was thinking ahead and wanting a policy we had none, but yet we were getting a weight room donated, you know, connected to our football and our trainers. And so, you know, we've addressed some of the naming policy, and I believe that coming tonight to seek the approval to go forward with the brand and the naming of it, as long as our, you know, I don't know if it should go to our policy committee, you know, maybe, or I know, you know, Superintendent probably has this all answered, but I'm going to finish today. And just, again, you've been more than clear with, you know, the next steps in the corporate and all of the other excitement, we have to make sure that we have policy in place for that as well. Because I know that we didn't quite go there in our naming policy when we worked with CFO Harrison, and she was really instrumental in answering a lot of our questions about that next step. So, but I looked at the policy, naming policy, over the weekend as well, and at least in my quick survey of it, it looks like, this presentation is following our naming policy. These two are on our policy committee too, and I would really suggest before the next board meeting, you know, to look again at that policy too, and if you have questions to, you know, come back to the superintendent. Okay.
Sorry. So thank you for that, because that sets things up perfectly. We did look at the policy, went over the policy when we met with the group, and so there was great excitement of, let's do this now, and we felt the same excitement, yet we also have policy and need to make sure that we're following policy, and so we charged the group with saying, okay, the policy says you go back to students, you go back to the community, you engage the community, you come and look at a variety of names, you consider the names, and then you bring them forward. And so I also talked with Tom too, to make sure that like that process has been done since then, before we presented tonight. We had discussed potentially bringing things forward directly through the HR finance group, because because it's a facilities, that they're kind of the owner of facilities decisions. But there was a sentiment that we wanted to bring forward to the committee as a whole, so everybody could hear it. But what I would suggest is that this gives us an opportunity to reconnect with our Executive Director of Finance and Operations, Zunich, between now and Tuesday's meeting. So we presented the information here, you have kind of the synopsis of what we're doing, but then as a business item, we bring it forward through HR Finance, and it comes through HR Finance, so that there would be a formal recommendation at the HR Finance meeting next Tuesday. The board, you know, consider and vote upon the renaming. It doesn't have to be a presentation of this level. Maybe Tom comes, or even myself or Simone could address it, and then it would come forward as an action item at the board meeting, if the board felt at that time that we were ready for it. I don't anticipate, based on how much work that's been done, I think that so many questions have been asked and answered, but I also want to leave it to that committee too, to make some of that decision. Let's just say hypothetically, if the HR Finance Committee didn't feel like we were ready to move forward with it, if there's more work that needed to be done, we could have that work done between now and the April meeting, and be finished. But I don't necessarily anticipate that there's going to be anything that comes up, but I just want to be respectful of the procedures.
Right, and if I can chime in, that's where the recommendation to allow Director Zunich an opportunity to actually circle back, because the team has done a lot of good work, but Director Zunich, you know, having a chance to really go deeper into the conversation, making sure the process is being followed. For example, under 5, which is 8, process for granting naming rights, it lists in here, I'm just bringing it out as processes that it's supposed to be notification from the district website that there's a naming rights request has been submitted. Now, I'm trying to make sure that whatever we do, that as it comes through, that all those boxes are checked, so that there won't be anyone in the community that says we didn't follow our actual policy. So that's why we were making a request after conversing with Director Shoulders to give her some time to really circle back with the committee, to hear all the things, and make sure everything is moving in proper order. So, so that is going to be the next step, and she is looking forward to it. She's aware that she's going to circle back to the committee to go deeper into the policy and where you are with it, and make sure steps are checked. Hopefully, if everything's in order and we can make sure things are ready to go, we can bring it to the business finance, which is next Tuesday, a week from tomorrow.
So there would be time between that and the regular board meeting that could be posted on the website. And again, we're not trying to dampen spirits at all of this. We just want to make sure that when places and things are named, quite often there's sentiment and controversy, and you all know that as well as we do, because you've done the work behind way far more work than we have. So we would suggest that we maybe Tom and Simone and I regroup, we have that conversation so that we would know by Friday, this Friday, if it was going to be on the HR finance agenda. I don't anticipate that it shouldn't be on it should at least be on the agenda as a discussion point, if not something where we're recommending action at the school board meeting. So I just want to be, I don't want to overpromise and under-deliver, but we're very supportive of the idea. And it's exciting.
Yeah, it is. So, Mrs. Sadowski, do you have a question?
Yeah, I do. I just think principal testing could just speak a little bit more about the student engagement piece. I'm just curious to hear more about how you, the opportunity to give the current students for feedback.
Yeah, so partially the reason we formed goals is that going back a couple of years during the tail end of the pandemic, we were trying to decide where to have graduation, for example. And you have a Denfeld grad as a principal who says it's going to be on campus in our auditorium, of course. The pushback that we got from the community at that point is, why aren't we going to Hemsville Arena? And what ultimately came down is, go back to your students and ask, which we did. But we had to manufacture a survey to get input from our seniors about graduation, because we didn't have a representative student group at that point, like Point of View at East, which has existed for quite a while, which was really kind of the driving force for me to get something like that operating at Denfeld. So that's why Goals came to be, and Goals was specifically designed. It has kids 9 through 12 on it, and it has just about every kind of diverse student you have on it as well. So we have a 24 student group that represents our, it's not 100%, but it's very close, our student body. So that was the group that we tapped to come in. We met during I believe it was period 2, a couple weeks ago on Friday, and made the presentation to the Goals group to get their feedback, because the Goals group is great for one reason, because it represents our student body very well. Sometimes you look at student groups and then they're top heavy because they're juniors and seniors. This has every age level on it and a wide variety of kids, so you're not just getting athletes, for example, that are going to weigh in on this. So that's the group that we purposely built to do things like this, to give us the feedback that we can have fairly high reliability, that we're getting good feedback from a cross-section of our kids. And then they followed up with a survey, which was then sent out to them. I wasn't part of the survey, but they surveyed the kids afterwards. They also want to find out what their level of involvement was. Some of the kids say, yep, great, I just want to be at the meeting here, kind of what you have to say, so if I have any questions, to I want to be super involved. Like, when you have kids that are getting super amped up about CJ and what that could look like, that want to be more involved in this and actually be part of the process going forward. So try to gauge their kind of level of engagement that they wanted to be participating in as well. So that was what the student engagement piece looked like. It's sort of goals group.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I appreciate the history too, just on the names, because I don't know, it was just really great to hear about them and hear the impact that they've had on their community, people that they've coached, and the legacy that has. And they still seem like they are role models for people today. So
well, now that we had the original Hall of Fame in August 1st, 2009, the district and the city were very good about shutting everything down. It was the first time the Danville family ever met the Hunting family. And the Danville gave us his 1893 proclamation from Governor Johnson and his Scottish Rite from the 19th century. And the principal at the time were like, would you like another melon ball? You know, we had nothing more than a little welcome when they came, and the Hunting family was the same. Walt Hunting's daughter is still alive. She's 93 years old. I last spoke with her 3 years ago when Walt got inducted to the Hall of Fame. And in short, the Denfeld and the Hunting families think we're their heroes. We owe everything to you people in Duluth who are doing this for our family. And it was very touching because we were like, oh my gosh, who are these people? Denfeld Hunters is like peanut butter and jelly, but they're real people. And Mary Lou, Walt Huntington's daughter, is 93. When I first saw her, she was about 5'10". And I commented, oh, Mary Lou, you look great. And she said, my father would have expected no less. And I went, oh, well. And she's a big fan of C.J. Ham. And the only question she had for me is, did C.J. win my dad's award his senior year? Yeah.
I think, go ahead.
I just have one clarification. I'm not clear on this. What you want from the board next time is just the ability to name the field and the stadium?
Yes.
And whatever cost that would be to the district, I don't know what it is. The related but separate issue is the corporate sponsorship, which is a much bigger thing.
Correct.
And we wouldn't be voting on that.
No, that won't be a part of the for next, and again, this is, if everything goes okay, we would like to have that honorary naming, and, you know, that peace and celebration next fall at a football gathering, and that would just be the honorary naming that we presented tonight. We would be, you know, I mean, there's gonna be a lot of momentum and excitement.
There's going to be a lot, it would be good PR for everybody.
So, but yes, yeah, thanks for clarifying, because I don't want the corporate thing to be a barrier for the honorary. It's the honorary, and then we can touch on other things.
PSS is gonna be beautiful regardless. This is about the people. I had Mark Pikeman as a teacher. He is that legendary. I always thought I looked up to him more as a teacher than a coach. He was one of the most influential people I ever had in school, in the public schools. Amazing guy, he's one of the best people I know.
My favorite teacher I ever had.
Yeah, like completely shaped generations of kids out west. And he's still alive, and Walt Huntington's daughter's still alive, so that's trying to capitalize while we still have him.
I appreciate that, and thank you so much for bringing this forward. What I want to make sure of, though, is that the history isn't lost. And I think, either through our communications officer, Adele Wellens, or if we need to hire an outside group, I think having at least a brief documentary of what we're doing and why would be really great for telling the story and having it accessible to the public so that people could see the rich history and hear where we're at so that they can feel the spirit of what
That
we're
was a
doing.
good question, it's one of the students as well, which is really cool. That was actually a very specific question too.
Good, we should, I think it'd be great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Chair Lowe, that concludes our presentations for the evening.
Okay, we don't have to adjourn, it's not our, so.
I do have two more items.
Thank you.